Welcome back, everyone, to Lesser Known Operators. I'm your host, Nicholas Allen, and my guest today is Doug Kiesewetter. Doug is an 18 Charlie from the 20th Special Forces Group. He was one of my instructors in the 18 Charlie course when I went through. You might know him as Doug the Elephant Slayer on Instagram. Been involved with Go Ruck, Soft Fleet Marketing. He's got daughters, golden retrievers. He's into climbing and cycling, and he's all over North Carolina. Hope you enjoy this conversation just as much as I did. Good to sit down with him and learn a little bit more about the Charlie course and how things were going on the other side while I was going through it. As always, today's episode is brought to you by the Green Beret-owned business Precision Wellness Group and Dr. Taylor Bosley. Precision Wellness Group helps you fuel your momentum through bioidentical hormone therapy and evidence-based personalized telemedicine. Dr. Taylor Bosley is a board-certified physician, a U.S. Army veteran, and a former Green Beret, and an actual doctor who can prescribe you actual medicine. That's a bonus. So if you have been looking into peptides, TRT, HRT, hormone replacement therapy, testosterone replacement therapy for a while now, or just starting, look no further than Precision Wellness Group in Southern Pines, North Carolina, in person, telemedicine, coming to a town near you. Today's episode is also brought to you by Alpha Elite Performance. Use code LKO15 at checkout to save 15% on your order of supplements for the gym. I recommend the pre-workout. I do appreciate you guys. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, comment, pass these episodes along. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. Doug Kiesewetter, welcome to Lesser Known Operators, man. Thanks for coming on.
Well, thanks for having me.
Oh, no, absolutely. Absolutely. It's been, oh God, as far as GBs go, I think of all of the ones that I talked to, I think I've known you the longest because we met when I went through the Charlie course in, what was that, 2013?
2000, it had to be, it's somewhere between 11 and 13. Yeah.
Yeah, 13.
Time in the Army we're teaching there. Honestly, it was a good experience.
I mean, looking back on it now, because the perception, and it's not exactly the same for National Guard, but in active duty groups, the perception is SWIC is terrible, just awful, and nobody wants to go. And once you get SWIC levied, your life ends and you start crying and you shit your pants and you got to fucking wear diapers. It's awful. And then everybody I say that goes there, they're like, yeah, I loved it. Or it was really bad for them. And usually they made it bad for themselves.
Give jobs there, right? Like if you're a TAC and you're just babysitting kids in the Q course, it's probably like an admin TAC. It's probably not the best time ever. If you're an SUT instructor and you're just living in the field, like doing small unit tactics all the time, like also problematic. But if you're teaching in MOS or you're at Robin Sage, like it's truly the best application of your skill set because we're teachers. Like everybody's like, oh, be a Green Beret, you must be a badass. And I'm like, well, not really. Like I'm a mile wide and inch deep. I'm like barely good at like a million different things. But what I'm really supposed to be good at is teaching and influencing. And so going to SWIC and being on a podium and having to teach material to students who are motivated to learn, like it's kind of the apex of what we're supposed to do. And I left SWIC a much better Green Beret than I went there. Just in my regular day, I was a subject matter expert in all things 18 Charlie. And I had hundreds of hours on a podium where I could then get up in front of partner forces, or generals, or politicians and speak intelligently about a variety of subjects. But reps make that. Guys are like, oh, I hate public speaking. I hate it. Every time I have to get up in front of people, there's like a pit in my stomach. I'm nervous. I don't want to do it. And I get up there and I knock the ball out of the park. And I'm like, I don't know why I hate that so much, but it happens every time. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what it is. Every single time I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this. And then I do it and I'm like, well, it's cool. I enjoyed it. But I will be afraid to do it again the next time I do it, So I think it's good. I mean, I think guys should be more excited about going to SWIC, honestly. If they look at it like that, I think it would be less problematic.
Yeah. And you don't know anything about the B team when you're on the team. And then you get to the B team, you go, oh my God, this is how the company works. And then you're on staff and you see how the battalion works and you start learning how the staff works. And oh man, or doesn't work, or where you can, and I've said this on word, and I use this word on purpose, and then if you're wily enough, you learn how you can manipulate the other staff sections, because by legitimately being friends with these people, and they'll give you whatever you want over this guy that's a dick to them whenever they troll out of the team room and demand things. And you go, oh, maybe I can use this to my advantage instead of being lack of knowledge. So, no,
We supposed to work. The problem is it never works the way it's supposed to work. So, and then guys are mad because, like, I guess, everybody thinks they're going to go to an A team and they're going to be supported by a B team, and the battalion's going to prioritize the mission given to the A teams. And really, every A team is self-sufficient, and the less support they get from the B team and, from the company and the battalion level, the better they are on the ground. And so it's like, hey man, I'm going to send you the reports you need. I'm going to give you the updates. Leave me alone. Like, I understand commander's intent. I know what the mission is. I'm going to give you the update so you can update the people above you, but just leave me alone. Let me do my thing. Let me work for the next 6 months. We'll have positive results. I mean, mostly. Some teams, lose their minds, but generally speaking, if you leave an A team alone, the personalities that are attracted to this job set are motivated to be like, results oriented. They want to get something done. They want to be proud of something they accomplished. And as long as they stay kind of in sync with the nested mission, I don't think most command teams are upset about the results they get from a bunch of A series, ODA guys trying to accomplish a mission.
Yeah. And you got 6 teams with their own mission, which is 100% their focus. So we've got a B team that also has a mission, but they have 6 teams to support and the B team. So they're divided up 7 ways of what they have to try. Well, it's not like they're doing the B team's work, but they have to support that. They have their own mission. And you're like, oh, they're going to be supported by battalion. Nope, battalion's got their own mission too that they've got to do, that they've got to accomplish and things like that. So everybody's thinking you're being supported fully, but everybody's got their own shit to do also. So, and then as the teams, right? Yeah. Most teams, the vast majority, the overwhelming majority of teams will get the job done. And if you leave them alone, they'll get the job done. Or some will just implode and not get it done. And you can say, oh, that's not good, but I don't know. Is it better for a bad team that can't accomplish mission to fail? So, and you can make changes and things like that instead of kind of stringing it along. I don't know. There's some give and take there, but that's on the command side.
And once a team implodes, man, it's real hard to get it right. Like, you can change leadership, you can change guys on the team, but the culture kind of remains. And I don't know the solution to that, right? Like, when things go bad, it's like, kind of just got to start over, like pull the team, put somebody else there, explain to them what's going on. The hard thing is, I think, as SF guys in general, like, I don't think that it's an institutional culture. I think it is a personality driven thing. All of us feel like we're built different. So if you tell me that a certain group of dudes had a certain problem set, that's cool. I'm not that guy. Like, I'll be fine. Like, it doesn't matter what it is, right? If it's like, dating a chick with herpes or whatever, you're like, no, I'm built different. I'm immune.
Interesting example.
I'm immune.
Yeah.
like guys will always feel like they know better. And that's why they do dumb. I mean, it's why they do dumb stuff, and it's why they're good at doing hard stuff, because they don't view the obstacles as anything other than the path. So, but turning that to your advantage as a leader is challenging sometimes, because it's like, hey, the same thing that makes these dudes great is also what makes them very problematic in general. So, like, I mean, we have a selection process for a reason. I don't think the selection process is meant necessarily to pick the best. It's meant to pick a very narrow niche of guys who are just sociopathic enough to do really dumb things that they're told to do, take big risks, and move quickly through a like decision matrix that doesn't always have a good answer.
Doesn't have to be the best. Just because you're the best doesn't mean you're going to come out on top. And
No,
SF
should be an SF that are the best dudes ever. Like, but they don't have the right mentality. And you see guys get into teams all the time that are like, they're high performers. They're good dudes. They just don't have the right mentality. Same thing. Like, I mean, I have not worked at a special mission unit, but like, I'm assuming that they're selecting for a different skill set than what we are selecting for at special forces. And, you know, somebody who's really great in the Ranger Regiment might not be great in SF. Somebody who's great in SF is probably not going to be good in the Ranger Regiment. You know, like,
That's there's no comparison. Even with this, I learn more about different sections and people and stuff, and I go, yeah, there's no comparison. Like we're not even it's not even a fair comparison. That is a completely different life over there to what we've got. They do their thing, we do our thing. And it's no wonder that they are brought up to they're raised in regiment to look down on us for some reason. And we go, what did we do? Like I didn't like what did I
dude,
do
to
to
be
you,
fair,
man?
I'm at 21 years in now, and I have like, if anybody asks me what the best organization in the Army is, it's the 75th Ranger Regiment, hands down. Like they do what they do better than anybody else. They're the most professional organization in any military, period. Like, I don't care what country you point to. 75th Ranger Regiment is the most professional with the highest standards. Um, I wish the SF had a relief for standard that they had applied to as much as the Ranger Regiment did. But if we had that, we'd be a completely empty organization. You know what I mean?
Oh God. Yeah, but it- things would be different. Things would be much different in group. And some guys have said, "Hey, group needs a hard reset." I don't know. Maybe something needs to happen. But yeah, there'd be there'd be people getting kicked out in whole groves and things like that. So
And, you know,
maybe
you came through kind of on the tail end, like of a period where they were getting rid of a lot of guys. Like, I mean, I probably am friends with a dozen dudes that got bounced out of group for DUIs that were victimless crimes. Like, hey man, you know, and group was really hard up about taking people's tabs for bad behavior for a period of time, and then they lost their taste for it, and they started kicking guys out for, I don't know, being mean. It's hard to say. Um, and I mean, I don't know what the state is now. I'm blessed. I spent all my time in 20th group, and 20th group is a very different animal than the active duty groups, just because I think it's better. It's different. I think from a special forces standpoint, the guard is the crown jewel of the regiment. And I know a lot of active duties will complain and be like, well, you guys don't do all of the Army tasks as well as we do. I'm like, no, we don't. But I also have an ODA that has like a real doctor. Like, it's not just an 18 Delta. It's like a guy who's a legitimate doctor. You know, we have assistant district attorneys. We have engineers, like legitimate nuclear physicists that are on ODAs, and they bring a wealth of knowledge and an ability to communicate with people and build relationships that the Army just doesn't foster. You know, like the Army's like, we have a mission. We're going to do this thing. And the special forces job is very ambiguous, and a lot of it is about relationship building. So when you bring in like legitimate professionals who have a lot more life experience, I think they're just better SF guys for the key missions that are important in special forces. Sure, we may not be the best dive team in the regiment, but the dive team is capable of going in somewhere in Africa and developing real inroads and leveraging the resources they have to actually do meaningful projects with no money, because, you know, oh shit, we have 2 civil engineers on the team. And suddenly it's not really that big of a deal for us to figure out how to dig a well or build a school. Um, and if we don't have the skill on the team, we know somebody in the company who has the skill, and we'll make a phone call and bring somebody in and be like, hey, we don't know how to do this. Can you help? Um, I just think it works out better, you know?
National Guard is the best kept secret that's not a secret in special forces. It's not a secret at all. We just don't go look for the answer or ask the question. And now from going to these SFREs and learning more about it, I'm more confused about how you guys do things. I'm like, this is how you guys operate. And there's a lot of laws and a lot of regulations. There's state lines. There's territories. There's all kinds of stuff, and then different rules for getting in and send a selection and all this other stuff. It's very complicated, but it's I think that may be why it's a secret, but it seems like it's not that bad. Like, it seems
I
like,
feel like
oh, this
no
is
real,
kind of cool.
there's no real rules in the guard at all. Like, it's like, like the SFRE that we ran at my company. And I don't want to dive into like all the minutia, but like there's typically two different paths in the guard to pick to selecting people to go to selection. Some organizations will have like a legitimate training attachment and they'll bring in people who are MOS qualified and they'll put them in an 18 series slot because they don't have an overstructure. And they'll be like, these guys are going to train with us until we think they're ready to go to selection. That's a very complicated way of doing it. And it's time intensive and it takes slots away from actual 18 series guys. But typically we have the space on our roster to do it. It's just a pain. And then you have the other way. And the other way is like, hey, we're going to do a 3-day special forces readiness exercise. We're going to basically teach you what it is like to be an SF guy in 3 days. It's almost like a tourism thing. Like, we're going to put you through a mini selection and we're going to teach you how to do land nav, give you a rucksack. You don't have to be most qualified. You don't even have to be in the Army a lot of the time. Like, we'll have straight civilians come to an SFRE and we'll make a judgment call on whether we think they have what it takes to be a special forces soldier. We have like at my company, we have like a 90% selection rate. So we pick well based on the way we do it. But it's just like, hey, come over and spend 3 days with us. If we think you have what it takes, then we'll get you a contract to join the Army and we'll send you to selection and we'll see how you do. I think that's the better way to do it, just because you don't have to deal with, like, the people who are filling the slots are people who are absolutely in training and going to come back and be on a team. And there's not like this churn of guys who you're like, well, we're training them and they did some things that we don't like. And now we have to figure out how to get them out to go back to their unit. Half of my support guys, when we had training days, were dudes that came in wanting to be SF guys and never made it. And then ended up like cleaning bathrooms or being a cook or some other thing for us. You're like, and the guy's in his head, he's an SF guy, but he never went to any training and never did the thing. He just kind of like a company attachment. And that's kind of a pain in the ass,
That song, but only 3 win the Green Beret, right? Of all the people that start out in the beginning saying, I want to be a Green Beret, you probably got 100 of them there. And you go through all of some of them just, it's, hey, this ain't for me. They don't even make it to select. They don't even make it to trying, and then selection, that sucks. I mean, the selection rates at selection are terrible.
Well, I have a stepson now who's 20 and he wanted to be a Green Beret. And I told him, I was like, hey man, it's not for you. Like, it's not your personality. Like, I don't mean it as an insult. It's just not. Like, we're currently working him getting an option 40 contract. Like, I think he'll make a great Ranger. I do. I just think that in general, like, the kind of people that gravitate to this job and do well it's a complex job. Like, it's weird because it doesn't seem like it. Because, I mean, look at us. We're not like going to get into Mensa or anything. You know what I mean? like we're
maybe to clean. I could clean the floors at Mensa, I think. Yeah.
But like, it's a weird skill set and it requires a modicum of intelligence, but not like, I know some of the smartest guys I know are SF guys. And also some of the dumbest. And so there's a spectrum here, but everybody has to learn a language. You have to be technically proficient in some form of mechanical skill, whether it be medicine or radios or, explosives and construction. But you got to sit in the classroom. You got to learn something. You have to actually be able to memorize some material. I mean, you have to be able to regurgitate that in a meaningful way. And I think that, like, the difference between a bad SF guy and a good SF guy, we talked about SWIC earlier, but before we went live, the special warfare school is like where you polish your ability to teach. And we all know guys who can shoot. We all know guys who are like really fit, but being a good shooting instructor, being a good coach are developed skills. They're not natural. And not everyone can do that. But if you want to be a good Green Beret, you have to be able to teach, because our job is to be a force multiplier. One Green Beret doesn't accomplish anything, but one Green Beret with a battalion of partner force is suddenly a real threat in the battle space. And if you don't know how to leverage, the locals or the population or your partner force, well, you're just another guy with a gun, which you might be okay with a gun, but you're still just one dude. And that's not the bread and butter. The bread and butter is, hey, I just walked into a town full of people that they shit 6 inches from where they cook and they don't understand any mechanical skills whatsoever. It's my job over the next 6 months to identify leadership, impart skills and knowledge on these people and turn them into a functional military unit or civilization. I mean, a lot of times it feels like you start from scratch, It's like, what am I supposed to do with these guys? Like, they're literally barely living, then people don't understand, but when you go to Africa or Afghanistan and you deal with a partner force and it's like, these are not people you've ever met in your life.
You're not in the same century. You're not in the same century.
Not bad people. It's just, I mean, that's not universally bad people, but
yeah,
they're definitely not what you're used to dealing with. And imparting things like esprit de corps and unit cohesion and like mission accomplishment to people who are used to just fighting for the next meal. Sometimes it's a little complicated.
You are still on the team, right?
No. So, I left B120 maybe 4 years ago. My focus has been my family pretty exclusively for like the last 5 years.
I thought you were still in the company.
So we'll get there. Yeah. So I was really focused on not deploying more. I've done plenty of it in my career, and my youngest daughter's 14 now. And I really wanted to be present as she was coming into adulthood, just because I understand like it's complicated. There's a lot of pitfalls. And like my oldest daughter, I was gone during her formative teenage years. And like there was a lot to process there. And I wish I'd been present to be more helpful in bump steering her during those years. So for me, I wanted to finish 20 years in the Guard. So I left group and I taught at North Carolina's Officer Candidate School for almost 3 years. It was a great job. I can't say enough about it. Like I still go down there and I still hang out. So the cadre at North Carolina's Officer Candidate School are as good as any ODA I've ever been on. Like it's truly a group of like very motivated professionals that want to turn out the best product possible in future officers. A very fulfilling time, an amazing leadership chain of command. Like I've never seen a company and a battalion commander who did as good of a job of connecting with their subordinates and empowering them. And, it was great. That being said, I got a call, I don't know, 6 months ago from a guy that I know who's a sergeant major in 20th Group in Alabama now. And he was like, hey, come back to group. He's like, I'll get you promoted. And like, we're going to focus on getting you to retire as an E9. And I was like, first of all, I'm at 20 years and I'm an E7. And I know that there wasn't a place for me to promote up where I was at. So I'd kind of given up on the idea of being an 8 or a 9 at all. And, group pulled me back. I now work at the Advanced Skills Detachment in Alabama. I'm still in North Carolina. I commute when I have to, but mostly I can do everything I have to do remote. There's a whole bunch of things that I'm trying to do at a group level right now, that kind of lever off of what I did for Softly. Like you talked about your TBIs and, like recovering from a lot of that. You're not the only person that suffers from that, right? Like, do you know Jeff Dardia?
Name sounds familiar. He must be in the Facebook group because the name looks familiar.
Jeff's probably one of the best humans I've ever known in my whole life. And Jeff saved my life in, I guess, 2011, 12 timeframe. I was suffering from like, no other way to put it, but like heavy metal poisoning, just a massive amount of lead in my system. I had no idea what was wrong. Like I was still in the gym, still doing all the things I was supposed to be doing, but like I couldn't finish a sentence. I couldn't remember where I was driving. I'd get in the truck and I'd drive somewhere and I'd just spend 30 minutes just being like, where am I going? Like just driving aimlessly. If I didn't get in the truck and punch something in my GPS, I would, yeah, if I got there, it was just because I was lucky. Like my brain was fried. Real foggy thought, um, fairly depressed. Didn't know what the deal was. I went to the doctor and was like, hey, I want to get my test levels checked. And my test levels were just in the dump, like double digits. Yeah, dude, it was like, it's literally like, I think my total test count was 68. And I think
For
at the
those
time,
listening at home, normal range at the VA is 300 to 1100.
yeah, it was bad. And the doctor was like, okay, we're going to just put you on testosterone, like simple solution. And I was like, at that moment, I was like, but why? Why is it low? And Jeff started a Facebook group called like the Soft Health Initiative, and it was full of quackery, or at least I thought it was. It's like, okay, methylquin's bad for you, et cetera, et cetera. Um, oh, more cancer scares. Well, I'm too young to worry about cancer. And I was 32 at this point. So like I was fairly young, way too young to have testosterone as low as I did. And Jeff has always worked very closely with a charity called Task Force Dagger, which is a great
Matt,
charity.
yeah.
Yeah, Matt Parrish is awesome too. Matt just left there. I think he's going to finally make some big dollars. I don't know what the next place for him is, but we can't pay guys enough to keep them around, right? So like if $100,000 a year, if you're fully retired is great, but if someone suddenly decides to double that and pay you what you're worth, it's hard to not take a better job when the real, raison d'etre is taking care of your family.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I
Well,
get it.
if there's any veteran or soft nonprofits out there, you can at the moment pay me enough to hang around. Just I'm throwing that out there. You could at the moment pay me enough to hang around.
Well, it's funny, man. Actually, so I have a corporate job right now. I work for a conglomerate that owns like a night vision company and a bunch of other kind of like in-house brands. And I enjoy it. It's a good job, but I would like to pivot back into the nonprofit space as well, just because I think making a difference in other people's lives is a thing that made soft attractive to me. And I would like to continue doing that. And to get kind of back to what I'm trying to do at Gru is all of these organizations like his passion project has been helping SF guys who have health issues. And he has given guys this briefing called a meta briefing, where it's like, hey, these are the things you need to do to take care of yourself as you're transitioning out, as you're retiring. And we all suffer from the same symptoms. It's called operator syndrome. And it's really about, I'll use some big words that won't resonate, but like essentially allostatic load is what we're all overloader. Our allostatic load is through the roof. Like we're emotionally, spiritually, physically taxed all the time. And we just add more and more stressors, and everybody has to off gas those stresses at some point, and your body has to off gas those stresses. And sometimes your body just kind of implodes. For me, with so much lead in my system, the whole reason I found out is that Jeff, who was working with Task Force Dagger, had a partner program with the Cleveland Clinic. And he was like, you need to go to the Cleveland Clinic. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And I think they took like 32 vials of blood. It's the first time I've ever sat down with a doctor and talked for like an hour and a half about my entire health history. And they identified that like, hey, your lead levels are really high. We need to get them lowered. And the reason that you have a vitamin D deficiency is because your body sees the lead as calcium, and your body's literally not producing vitamin D because it doesn't want to create more calcium, doesn't want to, your bones are where they're supposed to be according to your body, but really they're absorbing a lot of lead to encapsulate it and protect you from these outside chemicals that are harming you. So we reduced the lead, and, honestly, like I am much healthier now, but I'm routinely doing things like getting screened for cancer, doing full body MRIs, all paid
Colonic.
for. Yeah, colonics. Taking care of yourself actively is really important, and being aware of things that are like outside influences. Like we talked about drinking, like alcohol is the number one worst thing you can do for yourself. Guys are like, hey, I want to do better in the gym. And you're like, cool. Are you sleeping 8 hours a night? Like, what's your sleep like? And, you just start with simple stuff and address it. And it seems simple when we talk about it, but until you sit a dude down and you're like, hey, what's actually going on in your life? Like, you show up to work every day and you do your job the best you can, but then you go home and you fight with your wife and you sleep 4 hours a night. You drink a lot to help you go to sleep, but it's hurting your sleep. So kind of like unwinding what's going on with dudes and just giving them a clearer path on ways to take care of themselves is something we just don't really do enough of. We pay lip service to it, but there's a lot of organizations that are doing really great things. I've been lucky. Hunter Seven's taken care of me in terms of like getting full body MRIs, being screened for cancer, relieving me of any doubt. Like, I assume I'm going to get cancer at some point, but it's nice at 42, when I guess I got my full cancer screen, to be like, oh, well, I don't currently have one of 80 common cancers. And then getting a full body MRI and being like, there's no growths that we know of. These are kind of your little problems we see, you can address. There's some back issues, whatever, but it gives you an idea of where you're at. It's like a kind of status report. So for me, I'm like, I don't want guys to have to get to the point where they're thinking about killing themselves and don't know why. Because it's not like it's a rational feeling. Like if your testosterone's low and you're depressed, a doctor's going to tell you to get on an antidepressant. The doctor's not going to immediately think, oh, your test is low. It's just not the way doctors think. So I'm trying to set up programs where a lot of the organizations that are doing good stuff can link up with guys who need those services provided and talk to every operator in 20th group and just be like, hey, what's going on with you right now? Like you got fat over the last 3 years. Why? Are you just lazy, or is there something going on with you in your endocrine system that like you're still going to the gym, you're dieting, you're exercising, is your sleep bad? Have you had your hormone levels checked? And then getting guys plugged in with nonprofits that can take them and get them looked at and give them solutions. I just, there's only so much that Battalion Med can do. There's only so much that the medics can do. And they're mostly focused on mission accomplishment, not operator maintenance. So right now, our kind of push at 20th Group is trying to link up with the guys on the ground more and being like, hey, you only are an SF guy like 4 days a month. And while you're there, you're focused on inventories and training and whatever else the company needs you to focus on. You're not focused on you, and you have TRICARE. You have the medical resources to take care of some things. Let's give you a list of things that you can ask your doctor about and get checked for free and schedule a doctor's appointment and get an idea. It's like, you don't need to be on a cocktail of drugs. Maybe getting off of a lot of the drugs is actually going to help you feel better. I'm assuming that you were a heavy consumer of ibuprofen when you were
I've really cut back. I mean, we're down to unless I can't get my head, and that's as far as I go for my headaches and stuff. Unless I can't get it under control, or I know I've pulled something and I'm like, we need to reduce inflammation, but I've really pulled back. I don't know why. I think I heard something, but I don't remember what it was.
well, I think everybody consumes a shit ton of ibuprofen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's the easy button, non-steroidal, anti-inflammatory drug. But you hit the nail on the head, right? Like, you're taking this because you're trying to reduce inflammation, but there are better ways to reduce inflammation than taking an NSAID. And so like focusing on the reduction of inflammation, like I'm a hypocrite because here I am drinking my energy drink, whatever. Like we're all kind of addicted to caffeine.
For those of
But
you listening at home that didn't see that, that was also a shameless plug for Echelon energy
they're
drinks.
and Eric Bartel is one of the greatest dudes on the planet. The guy that started Echelon
He's soft dude, isn't he?
I think he was in the 100 and worst. I know he was not a
Oh,
soft guy, but he looks
but
like it. He's
he's
very fit.
definitely affiliated with soft dudes because I saw some operators prepping his shit.
Bro, he's a hang around kid. I love that guy, dude. He's one of the nicest guys I've ever dealt with. He started do you remember the soap company Bravo Sierra?
Yeah.
They were like in Target and stuff for a while. He initially got in with them, and then when Echelon launched, that's kind of been his pet project. I think he's doing all their marketing. Eric's just a nice guy. He really is. And who doesn't like an energy drink that has capsaicin in it? It's like spicy. It makes you cough. It's people either love it or they hate it. I think
Is
it's the
that why you
greatest.
keep burping? I'm like, what's you okay, man? Shit.
Bro, it's it makes me like, whew. But yeah, like we consume too much caffeine, too much nicotine. Like we have like go things that keep us focused and going, but they're actually like causing other problems in our bodies. So kind of addressing the root inflammation. You know, these are all things where I'm like, when a guy's like, okay, well, my knees hurt. And you're like, awesome. You weigh 20 pounds too much right now, and you're not doing maintenance on your body. Like you're not focusing on mobility, movement. Let's break it down. Let's get you into like a unilateral exercise program that like works on stability, and then we'll bring back weight. Just talking guys through things, it helps. And you know, we always talk about identity, like guys. I mean, for you, like it had to be, you had to have gone through a whole lot, going through the whole course, becoming the special forces guy you wanted to become, spending 90 days on a team, and then the rest of your time at group is like you leaving and coming to terms with the fact that you weren't going to do the thing you worked so hard to accomplish, right?
It only seriously affected me for 6.5 years. So it was pretty like other than that, it was I dealt with it really well and maturely um at none of that time. Yeah, it was pretty yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, I get it. Like, this is a very logical thing. Owning it, addressing it is hard. And like, we don't do a good job of taking care of each other. And I think one of the things that has made my career so nice is I've been surrounded by genuinely great friends. And like when things have been hard for me, my friends have like stepped up and been supportive, and they've been like, hey man, you're being an idiot. And, you know, I'm blessed in that. I don't think that my life was that way before SF. Certainly not even in the beginning, but I want to be that to other dudes too, where it's like, hey man, like I know things are tough right now, and most people just want to look the other direction because you're a giant fuck up. But like, I don't think this is who you are. Like, you can unwind this stuff and be happy, fulfilled, healthy, make better choices. It's on us to make the choices. It's not, we're not a victim of circumstance. It's not this like, oh, it's okay for someone to be an asshole because they're going through a lot. It's like, dude, can't be an asshole just because you're going through a lot. But if you can, and what I find is like, if you can identify the root of a problem, then you can fix it. And most guys don't ever really identify the root. They're just like, well, I'm mad right now. Uh huh. Yes. And anger is an okay emotion to have. But why are you mad? What's making you upset? Why do you feel out of control? Like, you know, talk therapy helps some, I think, for people. But I think people use it as a crutch in the long run. It's like you don't need to be in talk therapy for the rest of your life. You need to identify what the source of your problem is and develop tools to deal with it. And if you can do that, then you don't really need to be in talk therapy anymore. But if you're going to a talk therapist that isn't giving you tools, you need to find a different one. You know, like it's not just a validation exercise where you go in and you're like, I go in here, my life's tough. And your therapist is like, sounds tough. It's logical you feel this way. I'm like, cool. Well, what do I do about it? If they can't identify that and be like, these are adult processes of thinking, but we put ourselves in those situations. We choose tumultuous relationships. We self-medicate, you know, like these are all things that we do. Winding that back and talking through it and figuring out more productive ways to deal with it. I think some of it is that whether people want to admit it or not, real self-worth comes from accomplishment. And if you're not accomplishing something, if you're not doing something that challenges you, something that you feel like can't be done, you're never going to be satisfied or fulfilled or happy. Like, dudes in general were made to kill dragons. And if you don't have a dragon in your life that you're actively trying to slay, like, you're going to be an unhappy person. You'll feel adrift. You'll feel like you're not doing, what you should be doing. You can't put your finger on what you should be doing. But I'll just tell guys, like, pick a hard thing. I don't care what it is. Pick something that you think can't be done and start focusing your time and effort on that thing. And I mean, it could be working at a soup kitchen. I mean, it doesn't matter. Serving other people, helping other people, doing hard things. It's the only reason we're on the planet. And if you're not doing that, then it's illogical that you don't feel happy. Stress is natural. Like, it doesn't matter that life is hard. How are you dealing with it? Like, everybody's going to have some kind of hard thing, challenge wise, in their life. Are you fixing it or are you wallowing it? And, we choose, you and me. I mean, you're doing this podcast, right? You didn't have any idea. You're like, I just kind of want to have some dudes come on and talk. And
I think I knew something. I didn't know it overtly. I knew it subconsciously that there is what I want is on the other side of this thing I can't conceptualize in my mind. I think intuitively I knew, but I didn't have any idea. I mean, we're only 8 months in and I'm constantly blown away, not just by like where the numbers are going, but people and the things they say, and then the differences and the people I'm meeting. No, I had no idea what I was getting myself into, and it's
and
it's really
you're
cool.
fairly, you have you have a variety of guys on the show with a variety of lifestyles and choices, and you won't have to worry about dudes coming on and being stolen valor cases because you just let guys talk. It's like, you're not trying to trumpet this. It's not like this is the moral virtue podcast where you're like, hey, I'm only bringing real heroes on. The whole name is lesser known operators. It's like, no, man, I'm going to bring some dude you've never heard of before who is going to be himself.
Most likely because to some extent, everyone is lesser known to someone. And even some of these guys in the news, even my wife pointed out, she's like, I don't know who the hell that is. Like, no matter how famous somebody is, unless they're, on the cover of the Wheaties box, somebody hasn't heard of them, so. But I want the people who aren't at that level also to have a voice and a story and a platform, and we go back to the taking care of themselves, right? I mean, God, everybody's going through some of these things at a certain level, and if I can do anything to abide those symptoms or help with that by example, then oh man, I got to do that too. Because
I mean, it's like, we all have our vices. Mine happened to be like golden retrievers. And this is like, everybody's like, how do you have so many dogs? I'm like, well, this makes me feel a lot better every day when I have to walk them and their dumb faces are like, I kind of love you. I'm like, all right, yeah, I love you too, little buddy. But, guys just need something, right? It doesn't have to be a service dog. It's just like some constant, like, steady relationship, friend, companion. People isolate themselves and they punish themselves for decisions they made. And it's like, when we were talking earlier, it's like, when I expressed some concern about one of the guests you had, and you were like, hey, everybody gets a chance. And I was like, fuck, well, way to make me feel bad about being a judge.
Do you know how long it takes for me to how many years it took for me to be able to conceptualize that answer, to give it in a pragmatic way, to go like, hey, I would have blown that off and been pissed off, but now I'm at a point where I go, oh, I see it from your point of view and I see it from their point of view,
Well, and we all make mistakes, right? And I think not all of us deal with the mistakes the same way. And in some ways, we all deal with them the exact same way. Like, I don't know many dudes who've had challenging periods with their life that haven't drank too much or tried to like you know, distract themselves with relationships that weren't healthy for them or whatever else. And it's like, those are common themes we go through. I guess it's not my place to judge that that's what they're doing because I've done it too. And just because I've kind of worked through it and tried to figure it out doesn't make me better than anybody else. I just did the work. And I kind of want to see other dudes do the work too. And when I don't see them doing the work, I think I get annoyed because I'm like, hey, man, like you're reflecting negatively on all of us. Um, and people don't understand that either, right? Where it's like the sense of community we have in soft, the judginess, the judgmental, like the guys are like, everybody has different takes on this whole stolen valor thing. And they're like, oh, well, you guys look like haters. You're just jealous of all these other dudes' successes. And it's like, no, man, the problem is that the way they're trading on it and the things they're doing make every single person think that we're all the same. We're all doing this thing. We're all trading on stuff we didn't do. We're all going to tell lies and we're all going to try to like exploit that for financial gain. And accountability matters. So like nobody's better to take care of that issue than people in the community being like, hey, this is unacceptable behavior. If anybody owns it, right? Like, I mean, Rob O'Neill's wild. He's a crazy person. But if Rob ever was like, hey, I have a problem with drinking and I get on the internet and I say crazy things when I'm drinking, I think that everybody would just be like, hey, Rob, that's cool, man. Maybe we should work on that together. Like, but instead you got a guy who's on Fox News every other day, still trading on the fact that he supposedly killed bin Laden. And it's like, yeah, man, what are you doing now? Like, you did that thing. It's kind of cool, I guess, in a weird way. But it shouldn't be what defines you. Being a Green Beret shouldn't be what defines me. Like, I'm not really an operational dude anymore. I'm at group and I'm trying to do something productive, but like being Green Beret doesn't define me.
I gotta go in there, and I've been working on this point a little bit more lately. And so you said, our bread and butter is this, from September 10th, 2001, our bread and butter is what was going on back then. There's nobody around anymore that was around back then. You are in the last generation who is taught by those guys. So you still remember, right? You still remember what you're told from these stories, but you didn't actually experience. There's nobody left that experiences it. And
But you know what?
so
is you think they came from? Like they were 90s soldiers.
They were 90s. Yeah.
They had no wars.
Everything's currently evolving, right? And so I hang on to this a lot because of just how my path went. I think, and what Sergeant Major said the day I get out, you're a Green Beret forever, right? And so, God, I do use this, and a lot of the people I associate with do use it as a stepping stone. It's a big part of our personality. There's a right way to do these things and a wrong way.
It is absolutely something you should be proud of. Like,
Yeah.
It's not say you didn't accomplish something. It's just, it's weird, right? Like when I was a kid and like I would accomplish something, that thing defined me. And it was like the thing I was the most proud of. So like, when I went to A&M, like being an Aggie was a very like defining thing to me. Going to Texas A&M, getting, that education, whatever that culture was, like it was something I was proud of. And then I, went and worked in the oil field. And that was something I was proud of because it was hard. And I had to like prove myself to people that were not people I was used to being around. That really defined me for a while. And then I got a Green Beret. And this is like a new community of people that I'm very proud to be associated with, that I'm proud of what I accomplished. I'm proud of the team effort. That defines me a lot, but it doesn't define what I'm doing now. And if I'm not doing that thing, like if that is something from my past, it's just a fond memory, like it's like, I'm not on an ODA anymore. I may end up back on one for a while, but even then that's a job. It's something that I chose to do, that I work towards. And if we stop being productive, like what are we doing now? Right? Like Softly was super awesome. Like
I think
I
you're still doing the thing because you, and I've learned this now, you are still creating Green Berets. You are still influencing the next generation of soldiers and people coming in the military. It doesn't go away. It still is the thing that you're doing, whether you're actively doing it or not.
I agree. But the mentor piece is, I think, what I want to hang on to, which is to say, everyone has something positive to impart on other people. And if you stop doing that, then you might as well just roll over and die. Because like influence, every single time I've been in charge of something, it's been a giant pain in the ass, right? Like being a leader, especially one in a position, an appointed position, sucks because nobody is ever going to be happy with every decision you make. But being influential is easy. Now choosing how you're going to be influential,
Well,
maybe a little
yeah,
harder.
how
You
you
know what I mean?
how you choose to be influential determines if you're going to be on Anti-Hero Podcast or not.
And I love what those guys are doing. I do. I love that they're like bringing receipts and they're holding guys accountable. The thing that sucks about it is that these are all issues that should be dealt with really easily. And it's like, we know we deal with problems at the lowest possible level. Like if I have a team internal problem and I take it up to the company leadership, I've invited somebody to come in my house and sniff around and see other things that are broken. So I'm like, hey, I want to handle this problem here behind the team room doors, and I want to address the problem directly. And I want all of us to grow from it. When we air our dirty laundry out, it sucks because everybody gets to vote. Everybody's like, well, you should have done this differently, or you should have done that differently. And you're not perfect either. And you're like, yeah, for sure. But also, like, it doesn't make the behavior less bad, and it needs to be addressed. And I think it would be a lot easier if, like, sorry, the echelon does have me burping today. If our actual leadership held people accountable, it would be much easier. You wouldn't have to have these witch hunts because all the information exists behind closed doors in the Army. And especially when we have people who are still serving who are behaving badly, they should be held accountable. Somebody in command should be like, this is a problem. We're going to address it directly. We're going to assess the level of how bad it is, and we're going to apply some sort of punishment, and we're going to do it publicly. We're going to own it and be like, we let this go on too long. This is clearly a problem. Now we're going to punish the person. Instead, everybody is like, well, I'm only in charge for like the next 18 months. And if I kick the can down the road 18 months, I won't have to deal with the problem. And because it might make me look bad too. And that's not what any of us learned how to do. It's like, hey, problem is here, address the problem, move on. I can't even pretend to exist at a high enough level in my career where I would know what the fallout of holding people accountable is, but it sure seems like nobody's eager to do it.
What those guys are doing, most of my show, very positive message, but we do show the other side of things of like, hey, this other side of stuff does exist, right? And those guys continue to care outside of uniform, and they have the resume and the background and the experience to speak on pretty much every subject within special operations. And a lot of these guys that are in the spotlight, and they care so much that they're like, okay, command's not going to do anything. I can still do something. I can with them, because there's a lot more leeway in civilian clothes than there is in the uniform. And if you want to force somebody's decision and use technology, okay, so, and that's where I kind of draw the line. I'm like, you guys got it. That ain't me. What I do think is, the benefit, the positive of it is, as well as I know, there's another dude or another group of dudes just like those guys that now will think twice about it next time. And that's the positive thing of maybe they'll change a decision ahead of time.
It is worth noting, I think that the things on a microcosmic scale, the things that are getting outed right now, we've all done in some way, form, or fashion at some point in our career. Whether it was at a bar trying to impress a chick, or whether you were talking to one of your buddies and you just said, I did this thing that you didn't do. Like, we've all been there in some capacity, small little things.
I used actual charm at the bar, Doug. Actual charm when I was speaking to young ladies.
Dude, I remember when I ever went to selection, I was at a bar with one of my buddies who's also a Green Beret, and we were pretending to be Green Berets. Just to, we're in SF. And we were like, it was the Buddhist of behavior, right? Like, yeah, I'm telling people I do this thing. And we ran into 3 team guys who proceeded to roast us. And I was like, man, I will never do this again, because like, you just don't know who you're talking to. You know what I mean? And the thing that sucks is like, when that happens when you're young and you see the consequences, it's like a course correction. You're like, oh, I'm not going to do this thing again. 22-year-old me thought it was I was like, this is cool. Like, we both made it through, me and the other guy in question. And I don't even know if he'd remember the incident, but I was so mortified and I got roasted so damn hard.
He remembers it.
I don't, yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. He had just been selected and I had not even joined the Army yet. I was like in onboarding, and it just seemed like a cool thing. We knew the right words. We'd read a lot, it wasn't cool. And we got roasted over it. And it's like almost pre-internet era too, right? Like, where you think you can get away with almost anything. And the thing that gets me is that kind of behavior is probably as old as time. It's going to continue to happen. But with the internet being so prevalent, like, I have all the information in my hand. I can just open my phone and Google somebody's name and make some sort of link connection and see if they're actually telling the truth or not. But it's so shameless on, at a national level, when someone's built a personal brand around doing a thing and they've intentionally, not unintentionally, misspoken about their service over and over again, like, they believe the lie. Like, in their head, they're not even telling a lie. They beat a lie detector test. We're not talking about innocent, like, storytelling to impress people anymore. We're talking about something that people are invested in. There's a group of people invested in it, because it's not just that guy making the money anymore. He has a team. He has publicists. He has other people that he supports. His livelihood has become other people's livelihood. He's invested in it. At risk of really touching a nerve, like, I feel an immense amount of sympathy for Marcus Luttrell, because he went through probably the most humiliating experience that any soft guy can have. His mettle was tested, and he survived through knowing that he did not live up to what he had trained to do. And the Navy, in their infinite wisdom, tried to turn a bad situation into a good situation and foisted a narrative on him that was not a true narrative. And he has had to be a poster boy for the Navy and the military as a whole, as if what happened to him wasn't a damaging, traumatic thing that highlighted his shortcomings, not his strengths. And that is his entire life now. Like, his entire life is peddling a false narrative for the sake of some nebulous greater good that the Navy thought was going to make everybody look better. And like, I don't know what that's like to live that way, to every day wake up and look in the mirror and know, like, my whole life is a lie. Like, that's got to suck.
Yeah. Murph has gotten more people healthy and working out than anything else. And there's,
it's not really his fault. Yeah. He didn't this was a cup that was put in front of him and he was forced to drink. But also he kept drinking it. You know what I mean? It's like, at a certain point you can come out and say, hey, this isn't what happened. And I know there's a book that was written by not me and a movie that was produced that I didn't really get a lot of say in what it was, but it's mostly fictional, and that doesn't diminish the heroism of my peers. And frankly, that's something that somebody can say. But once you're under the dump truck, it's a lot harder to figure out how to get out from under the dump truck.
Yeah.
And I know we didn't come here to talk about that, but like, I think that there are varying degrees of sin in this space where it's like there's intentional and there is unintentional, but character demands that unintentional things be corrected. The record needs to be corrected. At a certain point, it's not that anymore. It's like I could lie to you about a million things and you'd probably believe me, but there's somebody that's going to watch this. It's going to be like, Doug is lying about that. Like, and there'll be people that watch this that are like, Doug is kind of a piece of shit person. Oh, I've done very shitty things in my life.
I've got Doug stories from people. I don't care. I just go, you don't know my, like, and then the other side of it, I go, hey, you don't know my stories and I don't know your stories. So be careful with what you're saying to people
Well,
about people.
the beauty of it is I know I've made mistakes and for the most part, I try to own them. Dude, I mean, I was a real shithead to a guy on my first ODA, like real shitty. And he was a later replacement. And I spent years thinking about how wrong I was for being an asshole to that dude. And I saw him at a bar, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago at a brewery. And like, I walked up to him and I was like, hey man, you probably don't want to talk to me, but I've been thinking about this for a really long time. And the way that I treated you, the things that I said, and just my whole general attitude was fucked up. I was wrong. I owe you an apology and you do not owe me forgiveness. But I want you to know that what I did was indeed wrong and I don't treat people that way anymore. And I mean, he looked very confused. He was like, I didn't wait around for him to tell me it was okay. I just, I knew I was wrong and I owned it. And I think that if we all carried ourselves with a little bit more of like, hey, I did a fucked up thing, like I have a pretty good relationship with my first ex-wife because I've literally gone there and been like, hey, I did some things that were pretty shitty and I don't expect you to be able to get over them. But like, I'm not doing those things anymore. And I'm grateful that we have a good partnership in raising our kids. Like that's all it takes. Like, yeah, we all do bad things. How we deal with them is what matters. So it's hard for me when we talk about like the anti-hero podcast. It's like, it's necessary for them to call guys out. But like, what's the reasonable expectation that the people who are benefiting from the lies are finally going to like, just be like, you're right. You guys got me. I did this thing and I'm not proud of it, but I don't know how to get out from underneath it. Well, what do I do?
Almost no. I from my view, and that's kind of where we'll wrap it up, is at the checks and balances thing. If something fails at one level, now with technology, there exists another level that didn't used to be there that now can correct this problem that has almost gone away. It is, if you want to fabricate stories or steal valor, you almost have to not have ever served so that nobody can refute your claims. You have to be very red.
Those guys exist too.
Yeah, they have to be very red, because if you were in and you served, somebody's going to be like, that's not true. If there's nobody to say that's not true, then there's nobody to point the finger and you can maybe get away with it. But with technology how it is, and I as much as I want to be positive and help on the other side of things, it's 100% necessary, the way things are going and things like that. And then
worth noting that you can hold people accountable and still be positive. You know what I mean? Like, it's not all hate. At a certain point, it's like, I can have empathy for the people that are perpetrating the crime and be like, hey, it doesn't mean that I have to let you keep doing the thing, right? Like, I get that the guy who went and robbed a gas station probably did it because he is in a bad position. Do we facilitate him robbing the gas station over and over and over again? Or do we stop him from robbing the gas station?
We send him to prison so that he can learn how to rob banks later.
Yeah. Recidivism at an all-time high. Yeah, I get it. Like, I don't, and so, we can sit here. I don't really know what the right solution is. Like right now, I think we have a half solution, right? Like,
no, and we got into, and we went this way. The right solution is Nobody listens to people when they talk for the most part. And
Yep.
100% nobody reads signs. I got that from a cook at First Group. He said I could put a piece of paper over the mashed potatoes that says use the spoon, and the spoon is sitting on top of it. People would pick up the piece of paper and spoon and scoop the mashed potatoes out with their hand. Nobody reads signs. And so what do we do from there? Well, since we were babies or children, how did we learn anything? By watching other people
And
do things.
baby.
Yeah.
It's hot.
Yeah. By doing or watching other people. So what do we do? Well, you just got to work on yourself. As Jordan Peterson says, you can't fix anything else until you fix yourself. And
That's
so
true.
if I'm as fit as I can be and people see that, it will 100% rub off on them a little bit. If I can speak and about these things that I see, suicide's a big one, about going to these funerals and then talking to people and actually speak about it in a way that's not cringy and not fake and not for clicks and likes, but to actually help. If I can do that, then people will see that and then they will think about it twice. We're not gonna preach somebody into changing their ways. We're not going to make a little sign with motivational sign, although those are great for engagement and to get people to look at your page. The actions and the words and the discussions and listen and all that stuff, that's what it is. So are we going to change things? No, we can change each other, but over the grand scheme of things, we can't.
Change themselves, and I am here for that in general. Like, hey man, I'm all about growth. Like, there's dudes that I definitely was like, I'll never be friends with that guy, and we're friends now because they've changed. I guarantee you, a ton of my friends didn't like who I was when I came to the Q course. And, I oftentimes will remind guys, I'm like, hey, I'm a different person at 44 than I was at 40. And I was a different person at 40 than I was at 35. And as long as we're all growing and trying to do better, I think we're on the right path on that. You know what I mean?
One I wanted to touch on with, trying to do better. And we said with the health and take caring of ourselves, I have a ton of it because what did I do in special forces, right? 3 years in SF. I didn't get to deploy on an ODA. I didn't get to do this. I've almost all talked myself off of that position, right? But that's taken a lot of words and time and writing and engagement and all this other stuff, right? But that's active duty, me comparing myself to other active duty guys. And it's in the toxic way of like, I'm comparing myself to them. No, I like comparison. I compare myself to studs all the time.
But see, what you're doing is you're setting a standard. You're seeing someone doing a thing and you want to be as good as they are. That's healthy. But like when you look at someone else and you're like, well, they did stuff that I didn't get to do, or like that's hard to not do. And dude, social media, the way that we live our lives right now, it's literally, we're being force fed comparisons to other people 24/7, where it's like, well, how's that guy jacked that way? Or how does he have that car? Or how does he have that house? Like, and you're led to believe that there's no work that went into it. It's just like, he has that thing.
There's tons of work. There's all the work, but there's ways to enhance that work. Like Lee Priest says, you can be natural or you can be on gear and you still got to work your ass off.
Oh yeah. And I don't care how guys got there, but we don't show the process. I admire guys that show the process when they're like, hey, this isn't a magical thing. I'm not selling you some like system that's going to make you magically rich. I worked at this. I failed at this. I continued. I persevered, and here I am. And I think that if we, as a society, we've lost a lot of that. I think that like the perseverance, the work, the slugging at it, that's the good part. Like, you work, stuff as an example. You find a gun or a car or something that you want, and you work hard to save the money to buy the thing. The thing you get breaks almost immediately. Like it becomes another project, right? The joy wasn't in the thing that you got. The joy was in the work to get to the thing that you wanted. And if we start to see that and start to think about it and appreciate the process, I think that everybody is tends to be much more satisfied and happy about the things that they have or don't have.
Having things is not fun. Getting things is fun. Okay, so now with what I said about my little thing, and like I said, I've pretty much talked myself off of that, but that's a long way to get there. How about, you said you guys in National Guard, your Green Beret is like 4 days a month, and but we all know symptoms of TBI or overpressure or deployment cycles or stress and all this other stuff, it's not exclusive. You could gain all that in 5 minutes on a training exercise and have the same symptoms I did, or somebody who's been in 20 years, right? But you look at it through this lens. Is there another imposter syndrome level on the group side of guys going, I only do this part-time. I can't have, I don't have this same stuff that these guys have. Is there a culture there of comparing themselves and putting themselves down there as well?
We had a quick break,
It
now
changed
it's
clothes
you're wearing the same thing. The dog's in the same spot. I got a different dog and I'm wearing a different shirt. So no, okay. I believe the question that I asked before I was so rudely interrupted by
Duke
what's
Power.
Duke. That's it. Duke Energy and their I don't know, rolling brownouts or whatever. Yeah, we had to save power for something. FEMA's
Rolling
budget ran out.
Rolling.
All right, so imposter syndrome, right? Do you see anything at the National Guard level of guys saying, I'm only part-time at this. Maybe I don't deserve what this guy does because he's full-time and he's when all these things and he does it as a full-time job where I'm part-time. Is there any comparison level there of guys saying, because I only do this full-time or part-time, I'm not as good as this guy that does it full-time?
I think it depends on what team you're on. First of all, I literally just had a conversation about this the other night. I was at one of my best friend's birthday parties and about half of our ODA was there because we're all really close. Even though we live a long way apart from each other, we try to celebrate things together. And we were discussing the fact that like at a point in time, the ODA that I was on in 20th Group 2122 probably could go toe to toe with any active duty group ODA. I mean, we're a mountain team, so I'd say mountain team to mountain team, just, in specific skills. But the caliber of individual that was on our team was by far as good or better than anything we've seen anywhere. A mature group of guys who are emotionally, spiritually grounded, physically fit, like very physically fit, who were all very good at their job and did their job, which is, I think, sometimes rare, right? Trying to get guys to do what they're supposed to be doing versus what they want to be doing can be hard. I think another caveat to this is that typically the National Guard teams are older and we've all gone through the phase of life where imposter syndrome is a thing. And we've all found our passions and like our professional strengths. So you might have guys on a team who work for, GRS. You might have guys on a team who have a corporate job like medical sales or marketing or, being doctors, lawyers. We had a couple stay-at-home husbands who are just like jack of all trades, but like very autodidactic. Everybody on our team knows who they are. They have a good, strong, grounded sense of identity, and staying in the Guard and doing National Guard Special Forces, it's not our identity. It's something we do because we like it. And like when I was on the mountain team, we'd break our annual training, we'd break it up into 2-week-long segments, and then we'd bumper them with a drill. So we do 10-day training concepts twice a year. Usually one would be some sort of mountain training concept that was really just kind of a climbing trip with the boys that focused on mountain tasks. And then the other would be like a light and heavy weapons range where we would work tactics and get qualified on all the weapon systems we need to be qualified on. So we fit a lot of our training into a 20-day window during the year. Sure, we're not going to the range, every week, but most of us shoot competitively. Most of us are keeping up with our fitness. And if we aren't, we're we're harassing guys that aren't. Like, it's like when we see them at drills, it's like, bro, you got fat. What's up with that? Like, you need to lose some weight. You need to take care of yourself. And, there's a good accountability. I think the sense of self is a thing. I think one of the hard parts because I chased active duty orders for the first 10 years I was in the Guard, and I felt like I was active. Like, I mean, I had 10 years of active duty and 10 years of time in the Guard. And for me, there was this next ridgeline mentality on the active duty side where it didn't really matter what you accomplished. Like, whatever ridgeline you hit and did well, then you see the valley and the other ridgeline, and it's like, okay, I got to get back to work and do this thing, which builds a strong drive to be good, but it also really fosters a sense of inadequacy in most guys, where it's like no accomplishment that they make is actually a real accomplishment that they can like be proud of, because there's always the next thing. Like, there's the, you haven't done anything mentality that exists for a really long time. So long answer, that's it. Short answer, I just really don't think I see that regularly. There are good guys and bad guys in the Guard, but in general, there's more good guys than bad guys. And most everybody's sense of identity is strong enough that there isn't the imposter syndrome thing. I mean, I'm familiar with it. I suffered from it for years as well, even as someone who like got my tab, went to work, has a good reputation on a team. It's interesting because, I mean, I think I woke up one day after several years of therapy and working through a lot of shit with my personal relationships more than my professional ones. And I just kind of liked who I saw. I looked in the mirror and I was like, yeah, I'm happy. And I don't think most guys touch that. Certainly not when they're younger. There's a sense of like, well, I need to make more money. I need to accomplish more. I need to like, establish some kind of relationship or build a future for my kids. And like every day is feeling like you're just kind of drowning under a bunch of weight with no real like outcome. And now, I mean, I'm 44. Every day I wake up and have the same weight on my shoulders, but it's a lot easier to bear it when I feel like I'm going to make decent choices. The opportunities that are presented to me, I'm going to triage them appropriately. I'm going to put priority where it matters. And, I feel good about that. I think most of my peers feel good about it too. So I've been lucky, I guess. You know what I mean?
You said identity. Active duty guys, epidemic, right? It becomes, if you become the job and it becomes you. Where National Guard, you guys have 2 feet in society all the time, and then you hop over the line and then hop back. But you're always you're always rooted in the after the uniform life.
Well, there's no real
So
training in the Guard, right? Like you
yeah,
can
so when it ends, you just become, you're Doug. So you're still Doug. You were Doug before. You're Doug now. You're not Sergeant First Class, or are you an 8 or what?
Sergeant First Class. We'll
Sergeant First Class.
see. A very hopeful 8 board happened on the 11th of August, and we're waiting to see what happens. But it'll be cool and long overdue.
I mean, the terminal you're a terminal E7 at this point. Yeah, but that's a Guard. That's not a Guard thing or an active duty thing. That just happens in SF.
It's funny. I used to say, and this is a good example of ways to reframe your narrative. I used to think that a retired E7 was a failure. That like the whole point of being on an ODA was to become a team sergeant, get that time, and impart your wisdom to like a younger generation of guys. And then I woke up one day and realized that like, I put a big priority on Sofleet and my family for a lot of years, and having an honest talk with myself, being like, hey, I don't have time to be a good team sergeant. I literally barely make M-Day drills and annual training. I do a deployment every 5 years. Like, I'm not the dude who's like standing in the gap for every J set, every rotation that comes up, every school. I'm a Guard guy. I'm a part-time Guard guy. And so I dodged promotion to E8 for about 6 years when I was eligible. And when I left 20th group to go teach OCS, it was one of my old sergeant majors brought me over and was like, hey man, we'll get you promoted to 8 here. And I got into the regular Guard, and I realized that there was only 2 8 jobs where I went to work, and both of them sucked. Like, they were both like office jobs, not dealing with students, not actively being engaged in day-to-day activity. And I was like, I don't want that. I went from wanting it to being like, oh no, I'm fine. I'm a terminal E7. I'm going to retire as E7. And now with an opportunity to kind of like make an impact within group in my last, my August years, the end of my career, I'll take a swing at 8 and see what happens. I'll make the time to make it count, but I don't think I didn't have any heartburn about retiring as an E7. I feel like I made a difference in my career where I was, no matter where it was. And that's all that mattered. And I don't, the sense of identity is a lot more like, not to get into some weird stuff, but in the last year or two, I've gotten way more in touch with my faith. I was raised very Christian, evangelical Christian, and I think I ran from it for uh, 25, 30, 35 years. And I suddenly woke up and I was like, man, all of the opportunities that I've had in my life, all of the good things that I've done for people, all the chances I've had to like make a difference and help people, that wasn't me being put in those situations. These are situations that I would never have engineered or thought of. I think the Holy Spirit put me in those places to affect a change, to make a difference. And so like when I look at the future and my identity is, being a pretty poor Christian, but nonetheless being a Christian, being put places to try to do something to like emulate Christ as best I can as a regular human, which means like, I don't think that those opportunities are going to stop coming. I don't think that meaningful effort is going to like suddenly abandon me. It's not like I'm going to decide to retire from the guard and I'm not going to have any opportunities to do anything. But it's just like when you first get to a team and they're like, hey man, if you see work, do it. It doesn't matter what it is. Like, sure, you're an 18 Bravo, but if the radios need to be filled, if there's medical cross training, if, like whatever it is, if the floors need to be mopped, you need to do those things if nobody else is doing it. And I think that's just kind of like the way to look at life. Like, hey man, every day I wake up, I don't know what the day is going to bring, but if there's work to do, do it and try to have a good attitude. Maybe a little bit of complaining because that's a key element of suffering through things, but like cheerful complaining and get the work done and then move on and do what you want to do. You know what I mean?
When you were chasing active duty and then you're an instructor and then you're kind of wearing the uniform all the time, did you feel your identity being pulled more towards being a GB than you
Oh yeah.
were being a civilian?
Oh, 100%. And it was hard for me during that 10-year window, especially as a guard guy. Like if you're active duty and you've signed a 6-year contract or 4-year, whatever your reenlistment period is, you have a steady check. When you're a guard guy and you're chasing active duty orders, it's deployment to school to ADOS orders to deployment to school, and you're piecing it together yourself. You're finding the work and you're signing on for it and you're doing the admin process. I think I have 7 or 8 DD-214s because every period of active duty over 90 days gets you another DD-214. So I would do 2 years of orders strung together and I'd get a DD-214, or I'd do a long deployment and get a DD-214. And so for me, the Ridgeline thing was even more apparent because I saw my active duty peers progressing in a very logical career pattern where that like I do this thing and then I do this thing and then I do this thing and then I get promoted. And being in the guard chasing active duty orders, you're never getting promoted when you're on active duty orders because the unit that has you doesn't care to promote you. You're not on their manning roster. And so it's very hard to get promoted when you're not with your parent unit. So for me, it wasn't about progression. It was just doing things that I thought were meaningful. Sometimes that would be just collecting a paycheck to support my family. And sometimes it was because it's what I wanted to do. But like the 3 best years of my career from a growth standpoint were teaching at the 18 Charlie committee. And I don't think I was happy. I mean, I was momentarily happy, but I was very frustrated with the fact that the 3 years that I was spending at SWIC weren't doing anything for me career wise. Like if I'd been an active duty guy and I'd gone to SWIC, there'd be a logical career progression for me when I returned to a group. But leaving SWIC and going back to 20th group, like everybody looked at me as having kind of abandoned the unit for 3 years. Like I wasn't there for drills. I wasn't training with my team. I wasn't going on the deployments they were going on. So for them, it was like, hey, old guy's back. Where are we going to jam him? You know? And so there's complications with both sides of it. I think the guard is the crown jewel of opportunity in special forces. The training is the same. It's not like guard guys go through a different training pipeline or go to different schools as active duty guys. The only difference is when you're not on orders, you're having to do something civilian side. And for me, during that 10-year window, well, probably more like 15 really, when I was not on active duty orders, I was doing SF-ish things, taking contracts or, trying to promote the skills that I would use on a team to be a better team guy. And when I went to being a full-time, part-time guy, I could focus more on like actual work, starting and running businesses, getting a real job, and being present for that. And I don't think it was bad. I still see myself as an SF guy. I mean, I guess I still am, for better or worse. But I also, when you ask me the things that are important to me, even if I went back on active duty, I'd say I'm a dad first. It's my number one priority. And then, what comes after that? Like, how am I covering the bills that I have to cover? All right. Maybe being in the Army is part of that, but the Army doesn't pay enough for me to cover the lifestyle that I've built over the last, 7 or 8 years. So I have to do other things too. So like I still take consulting jobs or I still do things on the side. Realistically at this point, I probably never go back on active duty orders for the next, unless there's a deployment, but somewhere around 2018, I realized that I was taking a pretty massive pay cut to go on active duty orders. And that was a big sacrifice in terms of what my family would have to deal with in addition to me being gone. So it became less of an option. The idea that I was going to disappear for 6 months to a year doing a boys trip became a lot bigger commitment for me just because other people are going to have to sacrifice with me. And so it just kind of was something I don't consider as a good option unless I hit the lottery and, have $1 million cash in the bank. The idea of taking that time off is just, it's not really feasible for my family.
Yeah, the odds are really low, but the odds of anything happening at all are astronomical, also. So it either will happen or it won't, is how I
Look
look
at
at a lot of
Korea, man.
things.
Like, when we were looking at invading North Korea during Trump's first term, and they literally hired, I don't know what the number was, but hundreds, if not thousands of civilians to activate every member of 19th and 20th group. And they were part of the plan to invade North Korea. I mean, anything can happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember standing in that formation as well. I said, are they serious? That's
Serious enough
okay.
that North Korea decided they didn't want to play ball,
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
That's another discussion. I'm sure it's still,
yeah.
I'm sure the
But
plans are still on the table.
they're always there, right? But
Um,
yeah, like, I don't, I think that no matter how much time you spend in a job like special forces, it leaves an impression. And the path to get there, as you know, the Q course is a very long and it's very like, it's not a linear path. It's very confusing. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And a lot of guys kind of lose their way on the way. Yeah, I get it.
even the guys who graduate lose their way. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
for sure. I mean,
you
what are
get
we doing? Like, you
deviated.
don't know. You go to a team, and it's a very different thing. Um, I've been blessed to have some really great leaders, really great leaders and friends, and we maintain close relationships, which I think is probably the best mark of success in that career field. Is like, hey, who are you still friends with? I can go back and hang out with guys that I was on my first team with, like we haven't missed a day. And we're all doing different stuff now. It's interpersonal squabbles exist. Guys get mad at each other for logical and illogical things, but in the end, like, there's a closeness and a bond that develops that I think is worth any sacrifice. The difference between active duty and guard, I think they have different skill sets that make them valuable. But I honestly feel like for things like key leader engagements and working with partner force, guard guys are really well equipped for that. And we have a better attitude about non-action guy activities. The GWAT, the Global War on Terror, really kind of beat it into a lot of guys' heads that special forces was a direct action job, and that their sole focus was closing with and destroying the enemy. And the older I get, the more I'm like, hey man, I'd like to infill into a country, find a partner force, train them up, and never fire my gun. And that's a victory. Like, it's not about like warheads on foreheads as much as it is taking a force and training them into a more cohesive unit and affecting some sort of political goal through that. That's the job. And if that means you don't ever fire a shot, it's probably the most successful way to complete the job, as opposed to getting into higher risk situations that put U.S. soldiers' lives in danger.
Yeah, that's what I said yesterday or earlier or in the first section of this interview or whenever it was. You know, no matter what anybody says, what command says, or the people that teach the course or whatever, there's nobody around that remembers September 10th and how training was then. And then even further back, there's nobody that remembers Desert Storm and then everything changes, and there's going to be loss along the way. Everything's going to have its ups and downs, and we're going to have to change going forward. But that's the job. They select based on that. Like, you guys, this is your framework, and you have to make it work for the job that you get. And our job is to teach people to murder themselves, not for us to murder them. They are supposed to kill each other, and then the government, comes in and profits off of it.
Now you're going down a big old rabbit hole, and a correct one probably. I also think it's worth noting that we still do have some guys who've been around on September 10th in the guard. And it's funny. The general statement is correct, but I think what's interesting is that as someone who's been around from fairly early on, like when I joined in late 2004, I thought I missed the war. Like, I was like, well, that's it. All the good stuff's already happened. And I got lucky, I guess, in that, like, I got to see more than my fair share of war. But over the last 20 years, seeing the way that pre-mission training has regressed, really, like seeing the state of what is considered preparedness, I don't think that this generation of Green Beret is less capable. In fact, I think that the Q course and a lot of our professional development has grown by leaps and bounds. But I think that the institutional process that we go through to prepare guys for trips, out of necessity in many ways, has gotten very abbreviated, and kind of like it has changed the way that guys spend their time downrange. Maybe not for the better. I think that there are a lot of very logical mistakes that have been made that have almost been inculcated into how we do business at this point, that I think we need to wind back. I think that a lot of the strength of the September 10th crew was that they hadn't been to war, and that what they knew was low budget training, isolation facility preparedness, and they didn't know what they were doing. So they went above and beyond to prepare for going to Afghanistan. And they learned quickly on the ground, which is something that we'll always be good at because that's what we're selected for. But I think that it's still like when I'm teaching lieutenants how to deliver troop leading procedures and brief op orders, we still put all of our importance on rehearsals versus the delivery of the op order. And we just don't take as much time as we used to on training guys into things like crew drills and, like simple basic tasks that promote survivability. And we spend all this time talking about lethality, but in my experience, survivability is a much higher value asset than lethality. Like the ability to kill is great, but being intelligent about how you stay alive is how you continue to feel the team day after day after day in a consistent environment of conflict. And the only way to increase survivability is physical fitness and basic soldiering skills. And because we have so many high tech things and we have so many distractions in our day to day lives, we don't spend as much time on the basic soldiering skills that are really the most important.
Do you feel like because you're still, I mean, still in the guard, but you've been, teaching, the OCS thing. Do you seek out being plugged in, or is it just because where you're at and who you associate with that or is it something you go, I still want to be as read up and as plugged in as I can with
I
all of
want to
this
know
stuff?
what people are doing. I want to know the direction that the regiment is going and the army as a larger body. Um, until I actually until I actually have to hang up my spurs and it is not relevant to me, I think it's important to know. I mean, I volunteer at Robin Sage. We do 4
That sounds
classes a
great.
year, and we're about to start 5. And every single class I go and I volunteer. Sometimes I get paid as a contractor. Most of the time I don't. But I want to know what the students are learning. I want to know what they're teaching to the G's. I want to see what, like I have a stack of unconventional warfare manuals that I still flip through fairly regularly. Um, I think it's important, uh, just as a
Hope it's not judgmental because I don't want to be that. I don't want to be judgmental.
understanding the value of a Charlie complex and relationship building just for a sense of like local solidarity in terms of responding to hurricanes or disasters or whatever else. I still think that those rules apply in non-combat arenas. And as far as I'm concerned, like I can rest on the laurels of the things that I've accomplished with pride, but the second that I stop trying to get better at the thing that I'm good at, well, I'm going to start getting worse at. I mean, I shoot rifles a lot. I don't shoot pistols as much as I should. And every time I go to a USPSA match, it highlights exactly how bad I am. And, I'm like, man, but I take pride in being a fairly middle of the road shooter too. Cause when I go shoot against guys in the military, it's not even a comparison. Like I am dramatically better than they are, but they don't shoot competitively at all. And so like, yeah, I'm afraid of heights, man. When you ask if I plug myself in, I got put on the mountain team and like I was absolutely petrified our first mountain concept. Every single pitch was just me wanting to like piss myself. I hate heights. And I was so bad at it that like I joined a climbing gym. I found a climbing mentor and started climbing outside. I like educated myself on sport and trad and like I became a fairly competent climber, not even necessarily because I have a love for climbing, but because I didn't want to be a liability in that kind of situation. And I think it applies in a lot of other areas. The fastest way for me to get better at something is to really embarrass myself at doing it in front of people that I value and don't want to disappoint. So a lot of the time that means going places where I know everybody's going to be way better than me and just being like, does anybody want to help me? Like, and luckily I find that like very competitive communities, whether it be SF or, shooting or climbing or whatever, if you just roll in with like an open attitude, everybody is really helpful. Hunting, I didn't really do a ton of hunting until 2 years ago. And the job that I took, the corporate job that I took, hunting is a huge focus. And like getting to spend time with guides and asking questions about animal behaviors. And I mean, probably the best, worst time I've had in the last 3 years was learning how to go turkey hunting. And like, I'm not good by any means, but learning how wily turkeys are, learning their behaviors, trying to learn how to talk to them and get them to talk back to you and elicit behaviors from them is way harder than just taking a shot on a turkey. And so like, it's a big learning curve, but I sucked at it. I mean, I didn't kill a turkey until midway through my second season, and I shot it off my back porch because it was a target of opportunity. And I was like, oh, this Tom's going down, baby. Like, but,
It's
I
a
mean,
bad day for him. Wrong
I
neighborhood,
spent
bro.
hours talking to turkeys and listening to them and like listening to them drum up and down. And, I'm just like, okay, this is my day. And then it was not my day. And, it's the same with anything that you do in life. Like you can't expect to start something and just naturally be good at it. Hollywood would have you otherwise, but nobody is.
There's the things that we know that we're doing, and then there's the things that we don't know that we're doing also. So, okay, Nick, why do you go get in the pool? Well, I got messed up on the ocean. I don't like the water. So we're gonna train in the water. It'll help me with my cardio. When I run, I'm so heavy, it hurts my joints. So I do short running and then I do my long cardio in the pool. It allows me to recover first. That's almost the entire reason. But then you go, man, you start thinking about it, man, I've always had respect for like how fit divers are. Am I trying to live up to something that I don't know to prove something that I don't have to prove in my back of my head because I was in this community of these things I don't think about? And I go, man, when I was on the dive team, I think we did pool PT once or twice and I couldn't do it. But now I could do a pool PT with them. I wouldn't do well and I'd be smoked, but I could hang with those guys in the pool at a bad level, but that's tough as well. So what am I still doing? I'm not thinking about that.
But it's good for you. Like it is like being good in the water is good for you because the water is inherently dangerous and we're going to be around it the rest of our lives. It doesn't matter what the motivation is. If the motivation is this in deep sense of insecurity about something you didn't do before, who cares? Touch that. You know what I mean? Be like, oh yeah, that's why I do this. But then go be good at the thing. Like there's no reason to be bad at it just because the motivation is that you feel insecure about it. Like, yeah, use the insecurity to fuel better performance. Oh, nice.
Got a arrow, just pause there. The dogs all just flipped out. I think my wife walked in. Hold on one second.
Oh, you're good, Billy. Hello, ladies.
They're all three French bulldogs. Had a stampede upstairs and flip out. But with the magic of technology, I can edit that out.
Or just leave it. Let people see that the Frenchies went nuts.
I sometimes leave that stuff because I'll go back and watch it and go, man, that's funny. And yeah, but that's the magic of the digital stuff. I'm in my house. I'm comfy. You're at your place. We're not in a studio with bright lights and stuff, and it's going to come out however it's going to come out. I got a mic. It's going to be fine. Like it's all going to be fine. Now, some of the other stuff that we're planning, future, there's a lot that could go wrong there on that things. But no, right. But we as SF guys, we're doing stuff that we're not even thinking about because of the people who are around. There's stuff going on back here at a subconscious level of us trying to compete with one another and like always, it's always there. There's like, you're always being assessed and you're always assessing yourself. It's this weird competition that's always going on.
It's funny. When I was younger, I definitely think I was motivated by a sense of competition. It's still there in a sporting way in terms of like, I'm looking at how other people are doing in general, but it's a thing. It's a man versus himself thing for me at this point. Like I see other people that are passionate about things and they get a lot of joy out of it. And I'm like, hey, if you get joy out of that, I kind of want to know why. And so like, I mean, for me, like rock climbing has gotten to be fun. I've had a couple injuries over the last few years and recovering from them. Like I've not recovered enough from any of the injuries to start climbing again because they've been tendon injuries. I'm probably right about the point where I'm going to get back into climbing. But during that process, I was like, hey man, the next logical step is alpine climbing, like siege climbing, and I should do this. So, I scheduled a guided trip to do a climb up Mount Baker, which is a starter mountain. And I learned really quickly that like, I do not like alpine climbing. Like it's beautiful. I understand why people like it, but there's so many risks. It feels like an open ocean swim to me, where it's like the ocean is scary, mountains and glaciers are scary, and there's so many intangibles going on in nature there all the time that like you could be the best climber in the world and you're still going to die on a mountain because the mountain gets a vote. And for me, like having to go across crevasses or crevices, however you want to say it at your degree of Americanism, that stuff, knowing that the glacier's moving and that pieces of it are falling off all the time, and you're just up there with some crampons and an ice axe tied to your buddies. I'm like, no, it was cool. I tried it. I don't want to do it again. But mad respect to people who do, because it is a very challenging and hard thing to do. But for me, it was just like, hey, I see people enjoying that thing. It's the same thing as like the table games, dude. Like I always wanted to learn how to play Magic the Gathering or Dungeons and Dragons, but I didn't have any friends that did. So when I got to a place where I had friends who did, I was like, hey, teach me. And having Terry Schaupert come and like, run a game and me be like, whoa, this is really cool. Also, I would lose myself if I played these things regularly, like I would just disappear. It'd be like 18-hour days playing a stupid table game. I'd have tons of fun, but like maybe I should just recreationally do this, not full time, like there's all of these things are cool. I think the real thing is like learning how to balance those things with regular stuff you have to do, because a lot of people just go all in and their personalities become that thing. And it's like, this is an accent to what I do, not who I am, right? Like I have periods of time where certain hobby will be my focus for a season. And then, my bike will sit for 6 months and then I'll feel bad. I just pulled my road bike off the wall. I'm going to tune it up and I'm going to get back on the road. But I really haven't ridden much in a year. And I miss it at times, but also not enough to get on the bike. And now I'm like getting older, probably should balance my running with the bike more. And, I don't like beat myself up about the fact that I didn't ride for a year, and nobody else cares. So why should I?
No, you're the one that cares, right?
Yeah.
You said you're getting to more of that. It's not you against others. It's just you against you.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm getting with a lot of the stuff, fitness stuff and things. Like I'm only competing against me. Like you can't compete against anybody else unless you're at a competition where you're getting into that every day. You're the only person in here.
But even then, like the people that win, like they're just competing against themselves. That's what's driving them to be more successful. Like the level of like borderline autism that it takes to be the best at anything is notable. And I think one of the reasons that like I really enjoyed my time in SF is like the perception of what SF is from the outside is that we're all the best at everything we do. They're like, oh, these people are superhuman. And I look around at my peers and like some people are really, really good at certain things, but as a set, as individuals within a set and as a broader set, we're just jacks of all trades. Like everybody has the ability to learn how to do something, anything at a basic level, and then perform it and learn how to teach someone else how to do it at a basic level. That's it. It's that simple. And when people are like, oh, no, you're really good at it. I'm like, I'm better than you because you don't do these things, but I'm not really that good. Like if I was to go shooting, I could name 50 people who are better at shooting than me, who I would recommend as your teacher. But if you really want to learn how to shoot a pistol or a carbine, I can absolutely run you through the points of performance and improve your ability to shoot. But you're not going to go to Worlds with me as your coach. You know what I mean? Like it's just not the case. And it's the same with any of these things. Like we're all very passionate hobbyists. We have a taste for a broad set of hobbies. And like being a really good team guy isn't being a good 18 Bravo or being a good 18 Charlie or good 18 Echo. It's knowing that all the jobs on the team really fall on everybody's shoulders. And that if there's a guy who's overtaxed or you only have one person in a position, other people on the team need to backfill that guy's workload. And, I think one of the weirdest things about being on 2-2 was that it's the first team I've ever been on where every person who was on the team was excellent at their designated job and had a good work ethic. Like everybody did what they were supposed to do when they were supposed to do it. And a lot of the time that meant there was nothing to do. It was like, well, what are we going to do? All right, well, we'll do some cross training or we'll do, this other thing. But like, it felt like there was no work because everybody did the work they were supposed to do. And, you didn't have to guilt guys to do language training. You didn't have to guilt guys to do the things that they know they needed to do because everybody was responsible. And it was nice. Definitely a new experience because I'm used to it being like 8 dudes that all want to be 18 Bravos and they all want to go to the range and they don't want to do, comm prep or medical cross training. And, you're just like, all right, now we have to schedule things and nobody wants to be there because everybody wishes we were just doing a range. And the problem with guys like that too is like you go to the range and they want to do their own thing. And the second you pull a shot timer out, everybody's like, oh, I have other stuff I have to do because nobody really wants to compare themselves to other guys. It's like they say, what is it? There's 3 things that every guy thinks he's good at, but never wants to put a quantifiable number on. And it's driving, shooting, and having sex. It's like every guy thinks he's good at it naturally. But the second someone starts to critique him, they're like, no, I don't like this anymore.
I mean, 3 minutes is a long time, man.
Yeah, with a lot of intensity.
Yeah. Mile wide, inch deep. But did you appreciate that team? You've brought it up a couple times. Did you appreciate and know that you were on that team and that it was special while it was happening?
Yes, hands down. Those dudes carried me through a really tumultuous divorce. They carried me through family issues. We carried each other through things like weddings, funerals, divorces. They're still my closest friends. I mean, my best friend, we all kind of have migrated to other places now. That 2-2 has a lot of different guys on it. Some of the core guys are still there, but like when we do reunions, I mean, bro, it's like the best friends ever got back together. It's just a laugh a minute and everybody's glad to see each other. It's great. Can't speak highly of it enough. And while I was there, I knew how special it was. It was definitely like, if there was any negative emotion whatsoever, it was letting guys down. Like if I didn't do the thing that I was supposed to do well enough, and they'd be like, hey, I wouldn't say you actually prepared for that, did you? And you're like, no, I'm ashamed. I will work on it and do better next time. Yeah, it's a good group of dudes, man. Like truly a good group of dudes.
Is your dog okay in the background?
She's sleeping. They say when they do that, they say they're having dreams about their owner. That's what I like to think, at least.
Oh,
now,
you guys talking about me? You guys talking about me? No, that's got to be great. I do envy that a little bit. I had some good times on the B team, but I was not on a good team.
Bro, I spent a lot of time on the B team too.
But time on an ODA, I was not on a good team. Well, I was only on for this long, and it was not a good experience.
It's worth noting too that I think a lot of guys should start on the B team, but I think that's not where you put starting guys. Like, I think one of the things that's the hardest about being in SF is that guys want that team life forever. And when it comes time for them to go to the B team, they don't want to go because they like what they have. And I tell guys all the time, like, man, like if you're a senior E7 and you spend a bunch of time on a team, like you owe it to all the other teams in the company to go to the B team with a good attitude and actually provide knowledge and material support to the ODAs that you used to be on. Like the B team shouldn't be a place where problem children land or, like where it's like shitbag central. The B team should be the best dudes in the company who understand that their work is important. Teams struggling against a bad B team forever, like happens a lot. And, it's like, the A teams feel like they're fighting the B team. And it's like, yo, the B team should be supporting you in every way. I mean, they can also tell you you're asking for stupid stuff, but like in the grand scheme of things, like a good B team is worth its weight in gold. And a commander that understands that the B team is not necessarily a fighting unit, that it is a logistical hub and it should be supporting the ODAs, sometimes with material, sometimes with personnel, sometimes with, other resources. But like in general, like I've spent time on B teams. Probably the most I've ever worked in my career was a very long trip to Iraq as a B team guy. And I was an E6 on the B team. And I was a long in the tooth E6. And it was right before I came back to go to the Charlie committee. And I worked like close to 20-hour days for almost 13 months. And, I filled the Bravo and Charlie position on the B team, but I had an E8 who only wanted to work night shifts and wasn't particularly involved. We'll just put it that way. So I was the de facto, like, NCOIC of the B team. I had daily meetings with my sergeant major. He tasked me to do stuff and I did it. And I was telling team sergeants on ODAs what to do, what not to do as an E6, and they hated it. But it set me up for success in a whole bunch of ways because nobody was responsible. I had to be responsible and be a bad guy all the time. But I learned a lot. And like, I kind of learned what better B team roles look like. And it made me a better A team guy. Like when I went back to a team, I was able to contribute a lot more. So I don't hate on B team time. Without a B team, A teams are just floating. And that's not really a good place to be.
Man, like I'm 2 B teams. I was a junior Charlie on a B team and a senior Charlie, all as an E6, and then battalion Charlie as well as an E6. So all the staff Charlie positions before making E7. But that comes with injury. And it's just the way things go for me. But
Dude, don't regret it. Like that's the thing. A lot of
I don't brag about. Go ahead.
A lot of what we've talked about is regret based. Like you wish things could be different, right?
Oh no, that's whatever. Now I don't. Like then I was like pissed off about it.
And I think that that's what we're talking about too. Like I tell this to every young dude. Cause being where I'm at and talking to guys that want to go SF, a lot of guys from a traditional, like in a conventional role are like, I hate where I'm at and I want to go SF because I think it'll have opportunities. And you're like, it will. However, if you're not happy where you are never going to be happy where you go. And like, I know that seems like super trite and weird. Like it's like a Buddhist thing, like, release attachment. Okay, sure. But also like, if you've noticed a common theme here, I'm not complaining about anywhere I was ever at. Like, I think when I went to OCS, people thought I was crazy. Holy shit. OCS was better than anything I ever did in the Army. A lot of that is mindset. But when everybody in the organization is approaching it with that attitude, things are great. Nobody's upset. Everybody's working. Everybody's like helping each other out. Everybody's promoting and uplifting everyone else. So like, if you're happy where you're at, you will be happy where you go. And when we're younger, we don't know that because for us, like I spent a lot of years being like, I'm in SF and I want to go to CAG. And I really wanted to go to CAG. I wanted to go to CAG as a direct support guy. I wanted to be a heavy breacher. And I didn't actually care about being an operator. I just wanted to be a heavy breacher. And I always thought at some point it would become clear to me that that was the next step. But I was never thinking I'm really enjoying this time in SF. I was thinking I'm prepping myself to do the long walk or go to this selection, And what was funny is the planets never aligned for good reason. And right around the time that I started thinking about it, like right around the time that I would have been ready to go, mature enough, family life in good enough order, with a good understanding of my own strengths and weaknesses, I woke up and realized that like my place is in SF, that like my strengths and personality and interests all cater to doing a broad variety of things, not a very specific, like excellent skill set. And it was nice to have that revelation where I was like, I guess I could do this now, but I don't want to. Like, I'm very happy where I am and I don't want to rock the boat. I want to enjoy the time that I have, focus on being good at what I'm doing. And pretty much from that point forward, everything that I did got a lot easier in every realm. Like, am I happy? No. Why? What can I do to change that? Like, does it mean eliminating things from my life or adding things to my life? And then just kind of do that thing. I mean, when I sold Softly, when I sold my equity in Softly, I think that was probably more potentially damaging transition wise than anything, because I had a lot of identity wrapped up in it, going from starting it into like a pretty well-known, successful business entity. But I also realized that like one of the things that I loved about Softly was my relationship with the other guys I worked with, and the direction that we were going with the company as we looked at selling it and then not selling it. Like I didn't have a really good role there anymore. Like I was, I wasn't fulfilling my end of the bargain as much, and there wasn't really a clear path for me to do so. And, I think me exiting the company not only preserved the closeness of my friendships with my business partners, but it offered me some financial freedom to make other decisions that I wanted, pursue some other opportunities, and broaden my own horizons. And, I think that whole identity hiccup, I mean, 30 days where I was like, I'm not really sure what I'm doing, like what is life? And during that period, still worked with the boys, still did stuff, still was productive. I just was moving on to other things, and it really wasn't an issue at all. So, and I find, you probably got the stress inoculation talk during the Q course where it's like, we do something very hard for you. Something's very hard for you, like selection, but it's not the hardest thing you're going to do here. Like SUT is going to be harder. And then you get SEER school, which is hard in its own way. And then we're going to dump you into Robin Sage, which is fun, but also like it's very nebulous and we're forcing you to make your own decisions and you're still worried about graduating. So like you have that sort of Damocles hanging over your head. There's different kinds of hard that escalate so that when you get to a real situation, it doesn't feel nearly as stressful. And I think that life in many ways is just an extended stress inoculation session. And if you notice that familiar stressors are less bothersome to you, you're doing something right. It's like, this is problematic for me right now. It was more problematic last time. What am I doing differently? Why do I feel good about it? Because I know it's going to get solved, right? Like, but stress is life. Like an easy life is a curse. Every dude I know who's terminally unhappy has been given everything. Yeah, sure. You got a Bugatti, $11 million house, a boat, and a hot wife. Cool. You didn't work for any of them. It was all family money. All they think about is like the next car, things they want to do, or the next property, a better boat, a different chick. They're not focused. They're not happy with the things they have because they didn't have to work for them. And it's like we talked about stuff, like getting the stuff is way more fun than having the stuff. And if we start to think about it like that, I got a frog in my throat. Sorry. If we think about it like that, suddenly everything that was stressful before is like far more enjoyable. We call it type 2 fun, right? Where it's like in the rearview mirror, the thing we were doing was fun. But while we were doing it, it was miserable. Life is in many ways type 2 fun. But if we spend our whole lives just looking in the rearview mirror and being nostalgic about things that happened previously, then we don't get to enjoy what we're doing in the moment. And if we're looking forward all the time, which is kind of the problem you have when you're a young SF guy, you don't get to enjoy the moment either. So like, unless you can just sit down and I don't remember what author it was. Some famous American author, might have been Vonnegut actually, who said every once in a while in a hard situation, you need to just sit down and look around you and say, oh, isn't this nice? And like, he's right. You know, oh, isn't this nice? It was a reframing of the narrative in general. And like, I think that it just takes time for people to get there. Some people never get there, but I think when you talk to people who've gotten to that point, that's like the mystery, like the X factor where like, why is that guy different? It's because I think you've come to terms with just being like, this is really nice. The room's on fire and I'm not sure what's going to happen, but the flames are pretty. So let's just figure out what's next.
Yeah. All those easy times in life, wasted, just wasted time of life. Well, the hard times when you're struggling, those are the ones you reminisce about and you think about and what really
Wait,
mattered and you joke about it. Everything, once it becomes a joke, that was probably the stuff that we were learning the most and getting the most out of. And I wanted to get in with you. The one you say you got the most out of was the Charlie course. Uh, I that I've thought about it a lot. You said stress inoculation, right? Yeah, selection, maximum stress for me. And then we go into CLT. That wasn't as hard. And then we
that
get
was chill.
to
A lot of
it was
movies and a lot of
yeah.
PT.
And then we went to IUW, which was a surprise selection. So I didn't really know that was coming. We just showed up and did the events, but it was brutal in those years. SUT was where I was the least comfortable, and I felt like I was floating the whole time until he reads me the paper. He's like, "You did really good, dude." And I'm like, "When? Like, when did I do good?"
During
But then
what iteration of the 72 recocs of a basic raid that we conducted in the last 5 hours would you say I did a good job?
no, he's like, you did really well. I think you're going to do really well in group. And I went, what? I thought I was doing terrible. Like I was stressed out. But then once that was over, we went in the Charlie course and whatever, and people can disagree with me or not. The Charlie course, or after Sear's its own thing. Charlie course, Robin Sage and language, were by far the easiest parts of the Q course for me because I got into Charlie and that was so easy
I
for
think it's the
me.
most job in the Army, hands down.
We never got fucked with because, and I just realized this recently as one of my buddies who's a sapper, he goes, yeah, they didn't fuck with you because they didn't want you to accidentally detonate a charge and kill them. I went, oh, that makes a whole lot of sense why they didn't fuck with us,
Very, very chill attitude overall in the cadre at the Charlie Committee, for sure.
But that was the one where I was like, yep, I got this. This is all me. I've got this. But now, to hear from your side of things, like where in your career did the Charlie course fall for you? And so if I got that right, you were not in 20th Special Forces Group while you were at
No,
SWIC.
I was on ADOS orders when I went to SWIC. I figured out a loophole where, so there's a system in the Guard called Tour of Duty. It's like a web portal, and there are certain people granted access to Tour of Duty, and they can write jobs in support of contingency operations for the global war on terror. And I was working at a location, and I called this guy that I knew who was in charge of Tour of Duty. And I was like, hey, I talked to the committee chief at the Charlie Committee and the sergeant major in charge, and they both said that they'd like to have me. I'm fairly certain that I don't count against their manning roster because Guard guys are free. I was like, can you write me orders to go to the 18 Charlie Committee and teach? And so a year at a time, you get a year's worth of orders to go and teach. I was still a 20th group, which is why I didn't get promoted in 20th group while I was there, because I wasn't at 20th, like actively, but I was on active duty operational support orders to teach at the Charlie Committee. And it was great, honestly. But it didn't advance my career because there's no SWIC time in the Guard. There's no levy. Like no Guard guys are getting drafted. Guard guys that volunteer go and teach. And, during the 90s, a lot of the Q course was taught by Guard guys who were on active duty orders and teaching at SWIC. Like the SOPSI program was developed by Guard guys to begin with. Yeah, for the 18X rate pipeline.
He apparently one of the guy who says he's the architect, emailed me and said
For
he
the
wants to come on the
OPSI
show
program?
of the SOPSI program. He says, I'm the guy you're looking for. I was like,
What's
well,
his
will you
name?
come on? Let me mark this. Rolf Jensen.
I know Rolf Jensen. I don't know if he's the architect, but he's certainly one of the plank holders of the
Okay.
of the program. He's actually my memory of him is not as a nice person.
He's very blunt. He's very blunt in his emails.
But you know what's super funny is, and that's another weird sidebar. I am older now and I've accomplished some stuff, and I've never spared my opinion on the internet about anything. And it's funny because all the dudes who were the biggest dickheads when I was a candidate coming through the pipeline, like I'm friends with almost all of them now on the internet. Like they send me memes and message me and stuff. And I'm always like, man, and not just now, like as my career progressed, like guys who tortured me became close friends, later on. And it's just like, I look back and I think, they set me up for success. Like being like the tough love that I got during that time frame was very necessary for me. And it formed me into someone who was capable of taking criticism as something other than just, a destruction of self, and being like, okay, cool. Well, what do you need me to do then? Like, cool, yell at me. Now tell me what you need me to do, and then do the thing. Those guys all had pretty amazing careers. Like you said, my generation came through. All of my instructors were like task force dagger guys that either invaded Iraq or Afghanistan in the first push. And they had lots of great life lessons to teach us that were almost entirely oriented around mistakes that they made. And they owned those mistakes and they were pretty candid about it. And they were like, you guys shouldn't make the same mistakes that we did. And like, it was helpful, like genuinely helpful. I don't know. I mean, I went to SWIC as an E6 after my second deployment. I was an 18 Bravo and an 18 Charlie, but emotionally, I've always been an 18 Charlie. I reclassed as a Bravo after my first deployment. And that's one of the other things that you can do in the Guard is I didn't have orders and I didn't know what I was going to do. So I was like, hey, send me back to the Bravo course. I want to learn guns. And so I reclassed as a Bravo. And then I came back to SWIC and I was like, I want to teach at the Charlie committee. And a bunch of the guys who had been my instructors were civilians there. And it was a great experience. Some really great dudes. I stay in touch with a lot of those guys too. Some of them were better instructors than team guys. It's funny when you track guys' careers and you see like what guys were really good at. It's always interesting to see that some of the dudes that were your instructors, my peers, just home run 18 Charlie instructors really struggled going back to teams. They just like, and I think some of that's Army talent management and the way that the careers progress. It's like, it's hard to say, hey, this guy's really good at this. We should leave him here. We should have him do this for an extended period of time. I think a lot of guys would accept that. Because being instructors is a great time. I mean, I think by the time, was I teaching FTX when you came through, or was I teaching unexploded ordnance?
How did we meet? Like, I feel like I was there I wasn't as a G. I went through the Charlie course as like an extra. And then I came back through later.
Okay.
Is what I feel like it was. I was there for something.
We had students that did a lot of extra duties. We had a lot of students on the FTX. Like,
was there a detail out of IUW where we would have come out there through IUW? Then we were out there
for the FTX.
That was it. We were out there for IUW. We went through. That's when I met you. And when I came back through, you weren't there. And that was in 2000, late 13. But you weren't. I don't think we came across each other.
Because the way it works there, you initially were assigned to teaching special operations construction or UXO or calc in place. And when you taught special operations construction, you pretty much did that because they're long projects and there's a lot of prep on both ends of it. So those guys work really hard. When you taught UXO or calc in place, you are assistant instructor like during calc in place. Like if you're a UXO instructor, then you're an assistant calc in place instructor. And then it would like flip flop where if you were the primary on UXO, then the calc in place guys would be assistant instructors during that block, because there's tons and tons of range time. Like just, like we'd spend some time in the classroom and then we'd go out and we'd do practical exercises on explosives. And if you do all of these different blocks while you're at SWIC, so if you understand SOC and you've taught UXO and calc in place, then you're a logical pick to go be a cadre for the FTX. And the FTX is like the crown jewel of teaching at the Charlie Committee, because it's like an 8-day field exercise that's conducted.
It was such a blast. It was such
7
a
or 8
blast.
weeks.
Yeah.
Maybe even longer, usually 9 weeks. And so you really worked 8 days every 2 months. And then you kind of got in where you fit in the meantime. Like if you wanted to go help on a range day, you could, but nobody was twisting your arm to do it. So like, kind of wasn't working that much. You know what I mean? Like the FTX was like a big vacation for guys. Like once you got to that point, but it was only reserved for guys that were in like their last year, 6 months of teaching, because, they needed guys in other places. So I landed over there. I enjoyed it a lot. It was great. The FTX was rad, man. Like, taking guys that learned all the stuff and watching them put it into play. Like, I think the way we executed the FTX was great, super clean. A lot of great teaching points, a lot of opportunities for failure, a lot. I mean, we still failed a lot of candidates coming through the FTX.
It was so much fun. That was a fun tying everything together, with just the and the student stress. That's the only time in the whole course where I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it here, was when that time fuse was burning.
Everybody wants the time fuse to go, baby. Everybody's like,
that's 7 minutes. And it was mine hit bang, and the guy next to me hit on my time as well. And it was just me going, yes. And then he goes immediately, fuck. he cut the wrong time. Yep. And the instructor goes, are you kidding me, man? Because he was right on as well. And so I had so much fun in Charlie course. Like, that was it, right? And then,
dude, I take my kids out there with me for the FTX, my dogs. Like, my oldest daughter was probably 13 at the time, 12 or 13. And she learned how to fish mouth C4, tie Yuli knots, prep charges. We'd go blow up beaver dams together. She had one of the cadre ATVs that she'd drive around, and we gave her a sim gun, and we just let her shoot. We'd form up the students before class, and they'd be like, if you see anybody that looks like these dorks, you can shoot them anywhere they are. So she'd just drive all over Camp McCall on an ATV. I'd get calls from dudes to be like, hey, your Hellion's out on the flight line. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, she left the emergency brake on. She's ripping down the flight line, and there's just smoke pouring out of the back of the ATV. So I'd have to call her up on the radio and be like, hey, kid, take the e-brake off. And she'd be like, oh, sorry. Yeah, it was good times.
You get a lot of leeway as an instructor out there, especially in that role. How do you think you handled that from
probably poorly? But I mean, the funny thing is, right, a lot of the initiative that you take that incurs risk, at the time, it seems like a great idea. Like, we did some calculations at one point, and we decided that for the sake of reality of training, we could bury one stick of C4 in the ground and have simulated IEDs for the students when they were mounted. And we had the out of training students initiating those IEDs using MDI or something like that. So it was command detonated, and they'd have observation over it. And we'd set off a 1 pound charge underneath, an armored Humvee. No real risk to anybody, but it would definitely get guys blood flowing in terms of reacting to contact and things like that. And at some point, you know how there's a lot of old dudes that drive around Camp McCall looking to collect brass in old hoopty trucks?
You mean the Jeepers Creepers?
Yeah.
Yes.
Those dudes are always out there. And there was an old man who was a squirrel hunter coming across the drop zone, and we had an IED in place, And we told the students that the Humvees were coming, and they were from the opposite direction. And the OT students saw this old man's truck, and like we saw the writing on the wall. Like we were like, oh shit. And they initiated the ID right in front of the old man's truck. And he like bailed out of it. We thought he was having a heart attack. Instructors ran over to talk to him. He was like, I'm fine. I'm fine. Like, I thought I was, he's like, I didn't know if I shit myself or had a heart attack. And we were like, well, we should stop doing that. Like maybe there's too much risk involved in doing this in a non-closed training environment.
You blew up Jim Bob.
Good times, man. Like there's always something, but I think that part of building better soldiers and building better soldiers out of ourselves is being willing to take some calculated risks and do things that push boundaries. Obviously, sometimes that can go poorly. Were you around for the rocket incident at Range 69? You wouldn't. It would be after your time. I don't know if you heard about it or not.
No,
So,
and I was before the incident also.
Before the HME incident? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were right when I was leaving. Actually, you were probably in the class when I was teaching at FTX, and then I probably left before you made it to FTX.
Probably.
That being said, one of our mini bright ideas, because we all love explosives.
Here, pause for a second. You guys, all these bright ideas, like, it's all E7s, and then there's either a senior E7 in charge or an 8. And we saw the 8 like one time, and we never saw him again. And he'd tell us some stuff. And I think he was a Delta also.
Oh, he was as Rob, and that was a bitter pill. Rob was sent to us. He was at the unit for a while as well. And we won't dive into Rob, but Rob was not the most present committee chief. So yes, it makes sense that you saw
I'm not gonna dive into that, but like a lot of these ideas, are you guys you have a commander's intent out there and then you guys are making the rest of it up, or do you have that?
Soldiers. Commander's intent is a better product. And like our committee chiefs before Rob were like 100%, we will back you in anything. Like for years before I came to the course, we had a block of instruction on counter mine, which was like a lot of like teaching guys how to probe for mines. And like there were like these crawling lanes, and it was very antiquated. And I basically took it upon myself to rewrite that block of instruction to be counter IED because it was more, time relevant. And we brought in like MIT, Hendrix Motorsports, a bunch of different robotics companies to have expos out at the range and show students a variety of technologies available in the counter ID thing. I solicited probably like $6 million worth of counter ID, like minesweepers and things like that. The SWIC lost their mind. They were like, we don't want these on our books. And then they found out we were the only entity stateside that actually had this equipment. So we actually spent more time loaning that equipment out to teams that were going to deploy than we did using it with the students, because it was like other units wanted it and it wasn't anywhere available in the US. So it ended up being a really good thing. But yeah, like we had a senior writer, a civilian, and I contacted him and was like, I want to do this. And he was like, write up the PowerPoint of what you want, and then I'll translate it into Army talk and file it, and then we'll be good to go. So like, yeah, we had very loose left and right limits. And sometimes that was problematic. Like I'm sure when you were taking UXO, that giant rocket pod was in the classroom, the 275 Hydra rocket pod. Well, we drew 275 Hydra rockets every class to show students how to reduce misfired 275, because rockets are different than projected projectiles, et cetera. And you wanted to show them how to use 3 blocks of C4 because you got to crush the warhead and destroy the motor. So we had like, I don't know, probably 20 275 Hydra rockets every class. And we were doing the demo ambush every class as well, which is like setting up, a bunch of different pieces of demo and using them to attack vehicles that would go by, like, or that we'd have
Is
stage.
this all good for the internet here? I just clicked in my head. I'm like, is this okay?
I mean, an investigation was conducted and the guilty parties were found non-negligible or non-negligent. So I feel like it's safe to talk about. I'm not going to drop anybody's names except one person who is deceased because it is relevant. Do you know Ernie Tabata? Was he around when you came through? Or he was
the name only.
Mr. Tabata was like a 5-foot tall Hawaiian who was part of the Army of Occupation in Japan, fought in Korea, was like one of the plank holders for Mac v. SOG, absolute legend. Like he's just a demo man's demo man. And Ernie was out there and we were like, hey, we've got these 275 Hydra rockets and we have a launcher. We could initiate a 275 Hydra rocket with a blasting cap during the demo ambush and it would be totally cool. And Ernie was like, make sure you sandbag the launcher very good. It'll be okay. So like a bunch of kids, we sandbagged this launcher and we set it up with a Hydra rocket in it because we've been launching AT4s and Laws during the demo ambush routinely, but those have like a maximum effective range of something like 300 meters, which we have the range fan to cover. What we didn't think about was that 275 Hydra rockets have like a maximum effective range close to 3 kilometers. So we initiated this thing and everyone was like, we were all inside the bunker watching and everyone was giddy like a kid because this is what demo guys are like, right? It's like, oh, this is going to be so awesome. And the second that it initiated, the pod just rose up. All the sandbags flew like they weighed nothing. The pod kicked up at like a 30-degree angle and we just watched a 275 Hydra rocket take off into like the never.
Like a scud in Desert Storm.
Bro, we were like there was this pause and I turned around to look at Ernie to get some sort of guidance from the most aged and ranked person there. And he had left the bunker and was already halfway back to his car to get in it and leave. He was immediately like, I'm gone. And like we were on range 69 and that rocket impacted on like range like 34 or something while 82nd kids were like doing a police call. And it was not a good time. I'm just going to tell you that. I just remember being like, and a lot of dudes thought they were going to lose their career. And in the end, it all kind of worked out. But what we learned is never use a 275 Hydra rocket in a demo ambush.
The only one I remember the civilian that had his face blown off, Joe, I believe.
Joe McPeak. Yeah.
Yeah.
An unfortunate 3 a.m. encounter on Murkison Road.
Okay. A lot of guys that are my age have heard the rumors. We would make up stories. Are you able to say what the true version of Joe was?
Joe is one of the most interesting, hardworking people I've ever worked with. And much to something that I should have seen as a red flag, certainly, was that my daughters loved Joe. Like Joe had he had the collapsed nostril, so he had to put an NPA in. He had like a trimmed up NPA that he'd stick in his nose so that he could breathe. And his face was it looked pretty bad. And it would like drain out of the NPA. But every time my girls would come up to the committee, they would like run up and hug Joe and he'd share his lunch with them and stuff. And I was always like, maybe don't always be so warm to strange men who look like they're out of a horror movie. You know what I mean? I just think there was a failed carjacking on the Merc and he got shot in the face with a 410 shotgun and, showed back up to work as fast as he could. He's an interesting dude, man, honestly.
Yeah, he was this enigma in the course.
He was a great dude to have there, though. He did so much work on that facility. That guy, like, he's a credit to GS civilians. He worked his ass off. But
he had some one-liners too. He would just let rip on the cadre and we'd go, oh my God, this guy.
Dude, he loved messing with us. He'd get so mad at us. It'd be like Joe mad at the cadre every day over something. And people would pick on him until he'd detonate. It was great.
Yeah, you said the rocket, right? I remember the cadre once, we had a huge spendex and we had 3 massive charges.
Yeah.
They dug the hole and we buried them. And cadre's like, all right, initiate. And we get a countdown, and fuck, he hits the first one, and the cadre goes, ooh, I might lose my job over that one. And he's like, oh man, there's two more. And he hit the second one. He's like, yeah, I'm definitely going to hear about this. And
Well, there's a 300-pound limit on range.
we were at 5. We were at 5. I believe we were at 5.
Dude, you always say it's 300 no matter what it is. But with cloud cover, like if it's a clear day, you can blow 500 pounds out there and nobody from range control is ever calling. But if it's a cloudy day, then like you're shaking every window at every house all the way in Rayford.
At division. Yeah.
Yep. And they're like, hey, are you sure that was a 300-pound shot? And you're like, yeah, guaranteed.
I did the math myself.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a good time, man. And like you learned a lot. I mean, honestly, I don't think I could have been better prepared to be an 18 Charlie in Afghanistan than I was coming out of the 18 Charlie course. And then coming back to teach, I definitely was an even better 18 Charlie after teaching for 3 years.
You've got to be, right? You're not going to get worse. And
no, I mean, you're hands on the stuff every day. You're learning new things. You and the other cadre are arguing the finer points of a variety of different explosive theory. And there's always some guy who's like a huge nerd about something that like goes down a rabbit hole and like tries to share it with everybody. So like, there's no way to get away from it. It's good.
Yeah, it's got to be, but not something that is really a guard guy thing. So you got to go do something that most guys don't get to go do.
By choice, right? And it's funny because there's a lot of guard guys that would like to do it, but navigating, and honestly, this is probably one of the reasons I've had a fairly fulfilling career as well, is that I've never taken no for an answer. If I want to do something and there seems like there's a way, I've always figured out how to navigate the politics of making it happen. And that's another aspect of being an SF guy that I think a lot of guys ignore, which is like relationship building and calling in favors, like building up a really solid Wasta bank and then calling it in is a lot of what it is to be a good SF guy, like, because we can't do everything on our own, period. Like without support or commands, kind of like tacit approval, we would all be in jail. And so, having to try to navigate some politics, learn how to get someone to say it's okay to do that, whether beforehand or afterhand, both are equally important. And, it's like, hey, we did this thing and we meant well, like we thought this fell within your commander's intent. Could you sign a memo and say that you wanted us to do it? And they're like, okay, like,
yeah, that memo is a lot easier than the paperwork to punish you and follow up on that.
If it was something that was worthy of punishment, I'd always be an advocate for the punishment. But I think a lot of the time, like, I always tell guys, I'd rather have somebody who does a lot of things and ends up doing some things they're not supposed to do than a guy who does nothing. And so, like, I think in the course of trying to accomplish a mission, guys are always going to do some things that fall into a gray area. And the question is, like, how much gray are you comfortable with accepting for the sake of success? Because if we followed the rules, if we followed the spirit of the rules all the time, we wouldn't be successful. Sometimes you can follow the letter of the law, but in a different spirit and get better results. And sometimes the letter of the law needs to be massaged slightly in order to get things done.
Yeah, as Terry said, Terry Wilson came on the show and said, you have to know when to use the gray area. You can't use it all the time. You got to know when to use it.
I think it's worth noting too, like this is as simple as things like grooming, right? Like I know when I came in, I wanted a beard and like it was cool and I wanted to wear sunglasses and be in a cool uniform. And I learned fairly quickly that like there are times, I didn't learn the easy way either. Like I wanted to break the rules and do my own thing and I didn't really care about the consequences. So like I got taught the hard way. Like a lot of the time it was me getting told aggressively to do something different. But as I got older, I started to kind of like fill in the blanks. Like when I was in Iraq in 2011, my sergeant major, I wore civilian clothes all the time. Most people didn't even know we were in the Army, which I thought was hilarious. Like a lot of my deployments, when I wear a uniform, the conventional forces are like, "You're in the Army? Like, I thought you were a contractor." Well, all right, mission accomplished then, like, but Jimmy, who's like the best sergeant major I've ever had, was like, he got guys to do what he wanted them to do through persuasion. And his uniform speech was left a mark. He was like, "Man, you guys all have such fancy clothes. You spend a lot of money on all these civilian clothes, but you're climbing around on trucks all day and going out on missions. And like, really, you're wearing out all your personal investment." It's like the Army gave me 3 sets of clothes for this deployment that I can wear out for free. And he's like, "It's not like there's anybody here to judge me." And I was like, all right, I'm wearing the ACUs now because Jimmy's right. Like I spent like $800 on clothes for this trip, and I don't even need, I can just be wearing my ACUs and it's totally fine. And Jimmy'd be like, "Well, I don't know, just seems smart to me." And you're like, yeah. And having a beard in Iraq doesn't mean anything. So like in Afghanistan, yeah, you wanted a beard because you had to talk to mullahs and other people all the time. You wanted to be seen as an adult, and having a beard is like the only mark of being an adult. But in Iraq, nobody wears beards. They all have these like ridiculous mustaches. And that's where my mustache first kind of grew in, because I was like, I'm hanging out with Iraqis, time to have a mustache. And, like everywhere they go, they tell you, "You have a strong mustache like Saddam. It's very nice." And you're like, all right, cool. Like, didn't know Saddam Hussein was still so popular, but also we're all on the same sheet of music, I guess. Big mustaches. It just changes wherever you go. I mean, there are places where you need to be shaved every day, and it's not a question. There are places where you should wear civilian clothes, and there's places you should wear uniform. I mean, the situation is dependent, and the dudes who want to fight it all the time and are like, "I only wear cutoff cries ever, and I'm not going to stop now." And you're like, man, this isn't the time or the place for cutoff cries. Just put on something else, like it's fine.
An SF guy, man, an SF guy with the correct out of regs mustache, even guys that are like, "That's out of regs," they look at it and go, "Yeah, that's fine." That one,
I've been skating,
that one,
I've been
can
skating
stay.
mine well out of regs for about 10 years now. And I've only had one person try to command dictate that I shave it. And I did, and then I grew it right back, and it's never been an issue again. I think he just wanted to prove it. He could get me to shave it, honestly.
Have you made a career out of operating on the edge of the gray area between group and National Guard?
Certainly my first 10 years. I don't know, man. Like, when I wrote the article for Men's Health about SF guys doing yoga, I didn't predict that was going to be the beginning of me developing ties to preventative, sustainable, functional health initiatives. But with the course of my life, with the way that I had heavy metal toxicity, and like I addressed it, and I got help from friends and Task Force Dagger, and then, talking to a lot of other people and being like, "Hey, you should do this thing that I did." A lot of my focus within group over the last, 10 years has just been helping guys get in better workout programs, helping guys get on a better diet, helping guys, go to their doctor and ask for their hormones to get tested. And then having guys call me and be like, "Dude, it changed my life." I'm like, "Yeah, get a CPAP, dude. Like if sleep sucks and you snore, get a CPAP. Changed my life." And dudes are like, I don't think they believe it when a doctor tells them, but when another guy that they work with is like, "Hey, these are things that I did and they helped me," guys are a lot more willing to entertain it. And usually it's like Jeff says, most guys don't really want to get help till their dick stops working, at which point they're like, "Okay, what's wrong with me?" You know what I mean? And I think the goal is to try to get guys in to get looked at before it gets to that point, so that it never gets to that point. But that's usually the 5 alarm, red lights flashing, full stop for dudes is when they're like, oh, I can't do this thing I really like doing anymore. Something's wrong with me. But like the wheels were falling off for years before that. And I think you've seen it, like guys that were functional and contributing to the group and good dudes. And then one day, like they can't get right. They're just like, they're a mess. They're a mess personally. They're a mess professionally. They become a liability. And we don't do a really good job of figuring out what the source of that is. I think for a long time, it was just like, well, that guy's got a problem and he shouldn't be a group. And I'm like, but the problem isn't the symptoms. The symptoms are problematic, but this started somewhere for a reason. And like, was it a traumatic brain injury? Was it a hormone deficiency? Is it some like some undue stress at home that is forcing him into a place where it's very hard to manage stuff? Like, we should be more connected with our guys. We should give better advice instead of just being like, well, SF guys are going to do SF guys stuff. It's got to be like, hey, why are you suddenly just being an asshole all the time? Like, I get it. Being angry is a normal feeling, but why? And, helping guys get treatment and helping them stay in a job that they love for a longer period of time. It's hard. It's hard to get guys to commit to a path if they don't think there's a problem. And I mean, I tell people my DUI was probably the worst DUI that a person could get. Not because of like how drunk I was, but because I got into the accident, single vehicle, with my kid in the car. And there was no way for me to look at that and be like, it was a cute SF guy thing. It wasn't like, oh, hell, you know what? What's an SF guy without a DUI? It was a life-changing fuck up that I had to touch the fact that I wasn't a good dad, that I was not really a good person, and I needed to fix some things. If I had gotten a DUI by myself, or if I'd just blown a .12, I would have blown it off because it wasn't something that I viewed to be serious at the time. But in retrospect, it was what I needed to try to get my shit together. And there were a lot of things I wanted to do career-wise that I was not able to do because of this thing that I did that was hanging over my head that I was trying to navigate quietly without command, like punishing me for it. And I got punished more than adequately in the civilian world. It was pretty much a 5-year process for all of the consequences to go away. But like, it changed the way I thought about drinking. It changed the way I thought about being present for my kids. It changed a lot of things. And I think that I wish that there had been an intervention from people close to me earlier where they were like, hey man, like I know there's a lot going on and things are super stressful in your relationship with your wife, but like the way you're dealing with it isn't the way to deal with it. And like, you need to go to therapy. You need to like address some things. And I think for better or worse, Jeff Dardio was very present and quietly reminding me that I might need to pursue a different path before that, but I didn't hear it. And after the fact, it was like, hey, dickhead, and I was like that too. I looked in the mirror and there was a ton of self-loathing, like for a very long period of time. When I first talked about that incident on a podcast, like it was all I could do not to cry. Like my kids are the most important thing to me in my life. And like the idea that I put her at risk like that, just because I was being kind of a self-loathing, self-indulgent asshole, it wasn't a good look, man. Like it was bad. And so like having to come to terms with that and be like, look, I can stay on this path and I can do whatever I want and hurt other people around me, or I can get my shit together and actually like be a decent human being. And it wasn't easy and it wasn't overnight. And I didn't just immediately start making great choices. I stopped drinking, but there's plenty of other ways to self-medicate in terms of like how you address stuff. So it took some time. And I mean, one of my best friends years later, when I was talking about it, and I was like, man, when I had to go to AA meetings and a bunch of other stuff for a while, and like just very immersed in the kind of the like recovery culture. And he was like, you were never an alcoholic. You were just an asshole who couldn't actually address the problems that you created in your own life. And I was like, yeah, no, that's true, And I think that applies to a lot of us. And I do think that in our community, accountability from our peers means something. And, it doesn't always move the needle, but it's a very important part. And so, like, pulling a guy aside and being like, hey, dude, the way that you're conducting yourself with your wife is inappropriate. And it's not helpful, or you drink too much, or what's the deal with you avoiding drug tests? Like, what are you doing on the side? Is it problematic? What's going on with you? But we don't really, I think a lot of guys don't want to do it because they're afraid that if they try to hold somebody accountable, the person's going to be like, yeah, well, what about all this other stuff you do? And it's like, cool. Guess what? None of us are perfect. I don't bring this to you as a moral authority. I bring it to you because I care about you. And I understand that the things that you're doing are going to hurt yourself and others. And like, you're capable of more than what you're doing.
Yeah, you could tell somebody something, and it oftentimes is not going to land. There has to be an event to literally and figuratively sober somebody up to where they make the choice to make the decision to change and go like that. And you have to be, in a lot of cases, beyond reproach. And we are not beyond reproach. Who are we to offer advice on somebody else's bad decisions? So,
But we are.
what can we?
That's the hardest thing, is being like, look, I know, and it's one reason why I'm so open about the things that I've done that I've made mistakes on. And don't get me started, because if I go down that road, it'll be a long talk. But it's one of those things where I quickly reference the guys. I'm like, I did this, I did that, and I did this other thing, and none of them made my situation better. They only complicated things and made them worse. And like right now, you got to get better sleep. Step one, you got to get better sleep. So like, check out this meditation app, read a book before bed, make sure you're getting 8 hours of sleep a night. It's going to be hard. But once you start getting 8 hours of sleep, let's talk about the next thing. And a lot of the time, the sleep thing is really good because it leads to stopping drinking, because drinking before bed is the fastest way to get bad sleep. So like, talking to guys about like, hey, if you're going to get 8 hours of sleep, you can drink before noon. You know what I mean? But you can't drink after noon, because you got to have like, it's an 8 hour gap between your last alcohol.
I've heard the soundbite. It's healthier to drink for breakfast than it is for dinner.
Certainly. But also it's like, look, the point is alcohol doesn't help you sleep better. And at night, when guys are like, their brain's going 100 miles an hour and they can turn their brain off by being drunk, as opposed to, laying down and focusing, on actual rest. It's a process, right? I mean, like, you're big into fitness. A coach that can identify every single problem that you have and tells you every single problem you have isn't a good coach. A coach that identifies every single problem you have and identifies a couple of cues to change, 5 or 10 things all at once is a good coach. And it's the same in life. Like, you cannot change everything you're doing all at once overnight. It's a hard process. It's very involved, but you can change one thing. You can change one thing at a time. And once you start to change those things, a lot of other stuff just falls in line. And that's not to say that it's always easy. I mean, the enemy gets a vote. So even if you become a good person and like fix a lot of stuff in your life, your wife may not like it. She might have liked you when you were messed up because it made her feel better about herself. Or, it's a reality,
There's this one's fucked up. Like, man, all right.
It's hard, right? It's
no,
just
here,
hard.
like, all right. So
You don't have to tell a personal story if it's gonna get you in trouble.
no, it won't. It won't. It's just like, man, I used to be happy, and then I quit drinking, and now I'm just content.
Yeah,
Like,
content is happiness, dog.
but
That's the
you're like, at least I'm not, but then I'm not sad either. I'm not this now in any given day. I'm at the top of my game and I feel like I'm the biggest piece of shit in the world all in the same day many times, but I'm not this going from extremely happy to extremely sad,
and
flip flop in the
being
day.
content is real. And I think it's funny because like the idea of contentedness is lost on so many people. Well, I don't want to be content. I want to be passionately, like madly over the top about something. You're like, look, man, that's manic behavior. And like
Yeah.
being content with what you have is the true definition of happiness. And being willing to forsake what you want in the moment for what you want in the long run is maturity. And frankly, I'm way happier without a million brush fires to put out in my life every day. They happen regardless, but like I'm not the one introducing the problems into the situation anymore. Sometimes I do, but I try to
All right.
minimize it. You know what I mean?
If you take anything away from this show, it's that you are the problem and you need to fix yourself.
And one day with that attitude, one day you'll wake up and you're not the problem anymore.
And then,
Like
yeah,
genuinely so. Like,
and then people are asking you for advice, and you go, wait a second. Oh, here a year ago, everybody would, things have changed, but
yep.
that's it. I just I lost my job a year ago, and I've had the best fucking year of my life. Like I got to come down to North Carolina and give back and work during the hurricane.
Bro, what a
And
good time it was, wasn't it?
I didn't get to work. I got to manage at a facility that was a coordination facility, but the job I was doing was important. And
Where were you at?
I was in Hickory at the college.
Okay. I dropped some stuff off at the Hickory airport. The college is right next to the airport, isn't it?
We're close.
Yeah.
Like people were coming to us and then we're like, we can't, you got to go to the airport. And then the airport shut down and then you had to go online after a while. But at one point we had like 1,000 people there because we were the only spot. And then that
Bro, it was a
calmed down
reunion.
after a while.
Like
Bro,
I saw more team guys I hadn't seen in 10 years out there by themselves with no coordination, just like bringing truckloads of stuff in and just being like, hey, where can I work? It was great.
Yeah. So here's leading into, we'll wrap this up with, we're coming up on a year. I've got another outlet. I want to get a hold of some of the active duty guys and do some other things to show, hey, some active duty guys did this on their own accord on one side. I got another avenue for that. But there were G chiefs running G camps. And for those listening at home, G base, like guerrilla base, these former SF dudes started running government aid camps out of their house in the mountains of North Carolina and doing a really good job at it. They just took Robin Sage and put it into the real world application. And so I want to get a couple of those guys on and go over and show like, hey, this is what
Rusty,
like what it is.
Rusty Gata is on that list.
Yeah. Rusty's on there, and I think a couple other guys. There were guys from doing some bad at first, and then they switched over, and then we're doing good. So good for them. But yeah,
it was a very interesting situation. I got a lot out of it, but yeah, it was very consuming for about 6 weeks. My entire life was like day trips up into the Toe River Valley, and just what do you need next?
Yeah, it's terrible. So we're going to work on some of those things. I might even come down there and do some interviews and things. I want to showcase, because it's really is the lesser known operators, man. I started thinking about it more. There's some cool people that did some really cool things that nobody knows about, and I want to use this to showcase it here on the anniversary coming up. So I'll talk to you offline about some of that
please
stuff.
Do.
Man,
the invite. It was very enjoyable. Thank you very much.
I lost control of this interview early and I never got it back. We're going to wrap up with my 5 questions that I ask everybody, and then I'm going to get this on the cutting room floor here.
Perfect.
All right, man. What is your response to thank you for your service?
God, embarrassment. I usually just tell people it's the best job I ever had. And if I hadn't loved it, I wouldn't have done it. And I'm just like, thanks, but it was just a job. You know what I mean?
Still embarrassment.
It's just a job. I don't know. I don't need anybody to thank me for it. I got paid for it, and I got a lot of benefits associated with it, and got a lot of cool skills, and I get to experience things I could never paid for and with any amount of money or success. So I appreciate that people thank me. I also feel like I feel very awkward anytime anyone says that. I'm like, well, okay.
I don't know what to do with my hands. All right. What is the one characteristic that sets operators apart from the conventional forces?
Resilience. It's either adaptability or resilience. But I know that, like, in general, everyone that I've ever worked with is very familiar with the concept of failing up, and that, failure is not the end of something. Failure is just the first time that you get told no, and you got to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and move forward, no matter how bad it is, no matter what the consequences are. If you're still walking, you're getting up and you're moving forward.
What is the one moment of your career that you wish you could go back and relive or redo, and it wouldn't change where you are now?
God, I don't know. My first firefight, I wouldn't do anything different, but I realized very early on that, like, whatever you get, the first one is the best one. It's kind of like a drug. And the feeling that I got in my first firefight, it didn't matter how good they got after that or what was going on or how dangerous they were. None of them were ever like the first one. So if I had to relive a situation, I'd want to get that exhilaration back one time.
What is the best piece of advice that you received during your career?
I'm debating whether I take this seriously or not. Um,
Just keep it on par with the whole interview.
the first divorce is the hardest. After that, it's easy. you know. No, I don't. I think that the best advice I've ever gotten is to be myself. My exit interview from SFAS was with a dude who I had a stack of blue cards, positive peers, and a very small stack of pink cards. And he's like, so you got like 6 negative peers and like 60 positive ones. He's like, they balance each other out. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? Like, I just, like, didn't understand. He's like, just reading them kind of leads me to believe that you're something of an asshole with a big mouth. And he's like, it's okay. I'm an asshole with a big mouth too. He's like, the regiment is full of assholes with big mouths. He's like, you should never lose touch of who you are, but understand that your path forward is going to be much more difficult because you are who you are. And there's going to be a lot of bruises and it won't always feel like you're winning. And I was like, okay. And he was spot on. You know what I mean? I walked myself into as many problems as I walked myself out of with my big mouth. And, it wasn't always easy.
Last one, man. What were you afraid of then, and what are you afraid of now?
Failing was the fear of failing drove a lot for me. More so in a sense of how I would be perceived by others. Like, I did not want to be a failure to other people. My motivations were very external. Now, I think failure is probably what I'm the most afraid of as well, but not for my sake or for how people perceive me, but for my ability to support my family, raise my girls up to be like good human beings, and maintain relationships with people in my life that matter. You just got muted.
Sometimes we do a bonus question.
Oh,
and today is one of those days. What is your external timber cutting charge formula?
God, I can't remember that right now. I always cheat with a demo card. And bring a hand drill so you use less explosives. All I remember is that for a tree of some size, P is always equal to plenty. So it's just an extra wrap of det cord every time, you know? Yeah, you would put me on the spot and ask me a Charlie question. Son of a bitch.
I believe it's D squared over 40. But
Don't worry, you've just opened up a rabbit hole. I'm going to have to go back through and read all my books now so that I never get put in this position again.
nobody fucking listened this far, man. Nobody's listened this far in this episode.
It's
if you did,
3-hour podcast.
if you listened this far, and this is the first person to comment or send me an email, if you listened this far and you got the answer to that question and you're on an SF team, send me a message and I'll Venmo you a case of beer and for the team room. All right, man. I appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate you, brother.
You got anything for me?
No, man, this was great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Bye, everybody.